Perfect. Now guess who I was with last Friday?
Who?
Top Rank. Top Rank.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures. As a matter of fact, before we start, I got a chance to hang out with Bud Crawford for a little bit. He and I talked a little bit.
Oh, that's so cool. You still think he's gonna lose though, huh?
Well, I don't think the fight's gonna ever take place. Nope, because last week, it's funny, we were talking, because they had an article that he had gotten hurt, and he said, man, in Rome, look, they say he had torn his bicep, right? So I said, okay. But he said, man, I'm fine, so many things. And I said, okay, so have the fight signed? Mm-hmm. He said, nope. Ooh. Nope, because he said, I agree to everything. The problem is, there's a couple of problems. I guess we can talk about it as we go on.
We're recording right now, so if you just want to go into it, if you just want to go into it,
it's 2 or 3 things that's stopping it. He has agreed to 65-35, which was supposed to have been the initial problem. And this came from Bud himself.
Wait. So Bud is agreeing to take only 35%?
Yeah, but what he wants, but what he wants, and to be the B side, they call it.
I thought this fell. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. I thought this fell apart a couple of years ago because he would only get 45 or something like that.
Yeah, well, probably what's happened now is that you miss almost 2 years, over a year, not making any income, and you start thinking about, I got to make some money. So
that'll do it. Yeah, for sure.
That'll do it. That will do it. And, I always tell people, you want to know when a fighter has made money, just wait till after they filed their taxes in April. And then they start
yeah.
Because that will tell you whether they made any money or not.
It was like, oh man, right? I bought one too many Ferraris.
Exactly.
Should have stuck with 5.
But now I'm stuck with, so now but he wants to, other words, he says, okay, I'll do that, but I want a complete autonomy to the money that's coming in, the pay-per-view. And they don't want to give him that.
What do you mean by autonomy?
Well, he wants to be able to see the numbers.
Oh,
he wants to be able to review the numbers himself, right? He says, I want to be able to review it. So you guys, because if I'm going to take 45, what is he? Now he said 65-35. That's what he said, 65-35. So You're talking about, man, but the guarantee, my understanding, the guarantee is only like $5 million. He also wants a rematch clause. Now, most rematches are done like this. Haven't been involved in a couple of them with my brother in the past. It's like, okay, we'll give you a rematch. And the winner automatically, regardless of what the money is now, but the winner will automatically get the larger lion's share of the next time you fight.
Yeah, that only makes sense.
That only makes sense.
Yeah.
But they also, they wanted what they wanted to offer him. I'm trying to, because I don't want to get anything wrong, right? I'm trying to make sure I'm thinking out as I said.
Yeah.
But they want to give him like a 2 or 3 fight, a 2-fight deal, want him to sign a 2-fight deal. So in other words, PBC or whoever gets he has the championship. Now, you're obligated to us in either a rematch or you got to give us 2 fights. Well, this is, and I keep telling people about boxing in itself. You're an independent contractor. You're not undercut.
There's no other advocate for you besides you and your manager, and hopefully your manager has your best interest in heart, and sometimes they don't.
And a lot, because the promoter has given them a little underhanded stamp themselves over. Here's an extra $1 for you, but I need you to talk to your fighter for me, so we can get this thing done.
Anytime there's this amount of money, I mean, we're talking millions,
We're talking millions, know. Now, if it's true that they're saying that Heyman offered them $7 million, and I'll tell you about a group that I have, we've actually offered them $10 million apiece. Now, since he's agreed to that, my next offer would be, and I have to wait because, see, I learned this thing that got this word called tortious interference in boxing. And I had to learn this the hard way a few years ago with a couple of fighters that asked me to come in to help them out, right? I went in. All I did was give them information, David. Told them it wasn't the best for them, but guess what? They didn't take the fight.
Yeah.
Guess who got sued? That's why I learned that
Yeah,
word.
well, yeah, they don't like people spoiling the game that they're trying to play.
Exactly.
You know?
So I learned this word called tortious interference, and that was back in 1997 or 98. So when I have conversation with boxers, I clearly make it state, hey, I'm just giving you my opinion. You do what you want to do, but don't go and tell your promoter, your manager, Roy Foreman said anything. I mean, did anything? No. So I make it clearly. So in talking and I was in Errol Spence's camp. I'm going to send you those pictures too. So we'll have some pictures if you want to put them up. I was in camp with him a few months back too.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just sent you one of Crawford myself. But and he was eager, but I think that, and again, this is my opinion, I think Crawford is more interested in showing people that he's the best than the money. And if this is true, what he's saying about the 65-45, then he's saying, just get me to fight. I'll kick his butt. And when it's all over with, I'll show people that I'm the best. And as I said before, you're absolutely right. I was on the Spence train
Spence has how many belts? Like I know there's like 50 million belts.
Yeah, he got 49 million of them.
Yeah, and then Crawford has one.
But
right?
One belt.
Yeah,
one belt. But it would be for
so he wants to. Yeah, it'd be for all the belts. Yeah,
he would unify. Now, see,
all 59 million. Yeah.
A lot of people don't look at the WBO, but unfortunately now they've since Oscar days, because that's when they kind of really made this intrusion into boxing, well, with Oscar de la Hoya, because before that, HBO would always say, well, we don't recognize the WBO. You got the IBF, WBC, WBA, right? And so the HBO was clear about that. But once they signed a deal with Oscar de la Hoya,
then they get the legitimacy. Yeah.
Legitimacy of it. So now the WBO over the last 10 or 12, 15 years has become more legitimate. So WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO. And I forget exactly. I can't remember which belt that they have, but I think he has the WBA belt. I'm serious. But anyway, he has this three. I
couldn't tell you. I get the major ones confused too.
Yes.
Like there's the one that's been around since like the 50s or before, or whatever. I don't even remember which one that is.
It was the actual WBA is the oldest, but the history part of this. But this is the history part. Before it was called the NBA, National Boxing Association. Yes, if you look it up, everybody. So it was no WBC, WBA. If you go back to Joe Louis and all those times, Marciano, even into Ray Robinson, those guys, it was the NBA, National Boxing Association, right? Because that was the title. Then somewhere, I think in early 70s, they got to the point that some WBC kind of came in, but they still didn't recognize it. Then Nat Fleischer from Ring Magazine came up with the Ring Magazine belt. Then it was called the John L. Sullivan belt. Few fighters got that belt. George got it when he beat Joe Frazier, because Joe Frazier got it when he beat Muhammad Ali.
Oh, okay.
And so after that, promoters kind of came into the game. Guys like DK, Don, and a couple other guys kept saying, okay, we need organizations to figure this thing out. Referees, judges, because there was so much, I'm going to use the word, corruption. So they wanted to straighten out the corruption. Oh, yeah, that worked. That really worked.
So, guy could be knocked out cold sometimes and is like, winner. They just raise his hand up.
That's right. Winner over here. Wait a minute now. So that straightened it out, right? So now, and then the WBC came into the mix in the mid-70s. WBA was there. So they just started doing this whole thing of, you had one world champion. There was only one. That's why the NBA was only one world champion. It got split pretty much after George fought Ali at the Rumble in the Jungle. Ali defeated George, right? So what it was supposed to happen, we had an agreement to fight Ali in a rematch. Ali never gave George his rematch. That's why George started fighting guys like Bowe, Young, and all those other guys to stay active and stay busy.
I never knew there was a rematch clause.
Yes, that was a rematch. Well, it didn't back then, David. It didn't take a clause. It says, okay, we'll do it.
Oh, okay. It'd been agreed to before.
That was the clause.
Okay, gotcha.
There was never, it's funny, but just so people will know, there was never really an agreement signed for George and Ali to fight. It was just agreement. Don came to, and I don't know if I said this before, but I, since we've been a minute since we've been here, I kind of refresh people's mind.
Yeah.
But what happened was after George had won a title, he had defeated Norton and Joe Roman and Ken Norton. Mm-hmm. His next title defense was supposed to have been against the Jerry Quarry, and Ernie Shavers was really kind of like up, was up around there somewhere in the neighborhood. But he took on a fight with Jerry Quarry, and Quarry knocks Shavers out.
Yeah.
Right. So that knocked Shavers out. People keep talking about why George didn't fight Shavers, but Shavers was never at that point that they would have had the match.
Yeah, I think they just really wanted to see that fight.
Yeah, they just
between those two power punchers. Yeah.
Well, if they saw the fight between George and Lyle, let me know. Tell you, they seen the fight between him and Shavers. Who wants more than one fight like that? I mean,
I had to make a video of that. How your brother got up. Wow, man.
That was, man, I can still, when I watched that fight, I'm right there in the corner, right? And I'm telling you, I felt every shot. And even when I watch it now, I'm like, George, how did you get up, man?
Yeah, very few fights make me wince.
No, that's cringe. And today they literally would almost, everybody but Steve Smoger would stop a fight like that now. Not Smoger, because Smoger had never seen a fight that he wanted to stop. But because George's head was on the thing and his butt was in the air. So, it's like, okay, it's over. But the referee let him get it.
I think both of them were out at certain points.
They were
just for a second or two.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last time, Lyle was just like, I talked to Ron in Vegas before he died. We were sitting there talking about it. Ron said, he said, fuck it. He said, it ain't where I'm not dying in here tonight. That's basically what he said. So when he went down, he said, no, I know George O said one was scared and the other was glad of it. That's just the way it was at that moment.
Yeah, because imagine you're Ron Lyle and you've got that insane power, and then you're like, finally he's down. Yeah, he gets back up again.
and then he's down
and then knocks
again.
You down. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's like crazy. But anyway, so back then it didn't take rematch clauses. It's just like, okay, Ray Robinson fought guys like 5 times. He and LaMotta.
Yeah, 5, 6 times. Yeah.
5 or 6 times. Guys just, okay, let's do it again. Just to show you.
Because it was fun. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
That's what it did to him. It was, they liked the idea. But so so Ali had the belts up until he fought, was it Leon Spinks? I think it was. And because he gave Leon a rematch, because for whatever reason they gave Leon a rematch. He didn't beat him, so they gave the champ. Then they say, champion automatically gets a rematch. Well, it hadn't happened before. It never happened before. Joe didn't give Ali a rematch until after he had lost to George the first time. So it was automatic. It's like the champion could get a couple of defenses, then you come back and you fight him. So it didn't take that type. The problem that's going on today, with today's, you got 1 or 2 promoters that's running the show. You got Top Rank over here, which is perhaps the best boxing organization in the history of boxing. I say that, having worked with them, but bar none, David, they are the best. Aaron runs a great ship. Bruce Trampler, he's got his son, Todd, his stepson, Todd DeBoof is there with him now. He's got the guy, a couple of guys worked the main event. So we have a very tight ship right now. He knows this boxing game probably better. He and DK, but Don just has a reputation. So even the young guys.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, even the young guys don't want to hear about a donkey. Oh, I know who that guy is. No, I don't want nothing to do with him. Whether it's true or not, you know what I mean? It may or may not be all of it. Some of it could be, but the other part, man, I know things myself that I know that people have accused Don of that's not true. And it boils down to a thing with it's always the money, of course. And I don't want to get to, because I want to cover all this, but anyway, go along. But it boils down simply that the promoters that are running the game now, you got PBC, which is Heyman's group, Top Rank, you got Eddie Hearns, and the guys from Matchroom, right? That's pretty much where you are. They're signing these fighters.
Yeah, that and the YouTube guys.
Yeah,
the guys who keep signing Jake Paul or whatever. But we don't need to talk. We don't need to talk about that.
And who is KS? Who in the hell is KS1? I don't even know who that is. But
as a YouTuber, I have no idea. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think it's you're a 12-year-old kid. You know these guys, kind of a thing.
I just seen today that Floyd Mayweather supposedly fighting the brother of Jake Paul, KS1, sometime in November in Dubai, and he's 1-3 to YouTubers. So I mean, he lost three times to YouTubers. Who in the hell? So I'm like, they giving these guys just letting them make money.
I should be making videos about this, but I just don't care. I so much don't care. They could be fun fights or whatever. One of the YouTubers had an actual good, like well set up knockdown or whatever, but it's amateur level boxing.
Yeah.
And I can't bring myself to
watch it. I've never seen one of Floyd's at all. Honestly, I did watch the Roy Jones and Tyson out of interest.
Oh, me too. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
we talked about that.
That was fun. Yeah,
that was fun. But after that, it just I said okay. And then Holyfield. Oh God, we didn't talk about that one. But they well, you know what they did.
People age different, and Holyfield, you know, Holyfield, he could still have the power for sure, but the strength, the reflexes. I mean, he can still have the power and the strength. Reflexes are not there, and he's very, very stiff. But he's old, and that's fine. He shouldn't be fighting.
But he has nothing. His balances, he and Riddick Bowe's balance, man, those guys took so much of each other, you know, soul and heart. And they both, it's a reason they're both pretty much in the same condition physically. You know what I mean? And
I got to interview Bowe for the first fight, actually, about that.
Okay.
Like I'm talking to you. I didn't meet him in person. He was very coherent and still like really sharp and everything. His speech was like still pretty clear and everything. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it comes or goes or what's up with that. Yeah.
No, let me tell you, I watched the declination of Bowe because I was doing the international broadcasting for HBO for a number of years. So I got to see a lot of the main events group, you know, Riddick Bowe come into the thing. And Bowe was so energetic, magnetic type guy. And loved being heavyweight champion of the world. But I watched him after the second Holyfield fight is when I started to notice. He wound up with the kid builder. I saw him build a kitchen in his bedroom. That right there was a horrible sign. That means I'm not getting up and walk to the living room anymore. I'm going to cook my meal right over here, eat, and lie down. Which came in for the rematch is why he came in terribly overshaped for the fight with Holyfield. Now, was he good enough in that fight? Probably, you know, he was in good enough shape, but Holyfield was dogmatic. He had his mind made up. He wanted the belt back. The ring man, the fan man, the fan man guy comes in, you know, and that just threw everything off. So any rhythm Bowe was about to get, he lost it.
Was that the third or the second with the?
That was the second.
That was the second. Okay, yeah.
The second. That was the Caesars also. Matter of fact, all three were Caesars, but that was the second one. So we're sitting there, you know, because we didn't see it. As a matter of fact, I think they saw it be the fight because Holyfield looked up. Everybody like, what is he looking at? And all of a sudden, man, you heard this, you know, this guy's in the ring.
So surreal, yeah.
Man, you couldn't. But now, had that been doing 2001, they probably would have shot this guy. You know what I mean? Because 9/11. But that.
I never even thought of that. Yeah, you don't know what he has on that plane.
Right, they would have shot this guy, man. I guarantee they would have shot him. But the crowd,
I'm sure they almost did anyways.
Oh man, the crowd, they beat the guy like I felt so sorry for the guy because Bowe's corner was just beating this guy. When they was practicing for the Garden, but they was beating this guy, and they finally got the guy. They put him out on the stretcher, took him. Police grabbed him and took him, and they were dragging the guy. You know, I guess Caesar was pissed off because he messed with my money. You know, but that's what they were worried about. So they get back. But about this time, Bowe was cold. Nobody was prepared for it. They went and got a blanket to wrap Holyfield up in. I give the credit Georgie Benton with that one. To kind of keep his body warm. But Bowe was just sitting over there for like 15, 20 minutes, man. And it was cool outside. This is in the desert. People have to remember, this was the desert. So, and I know we done bounced around a whole lot of things. I want to get back to Spencer. We're going to get back to that, but this is the historical part. But so Bowe was sitting over there in the spine, and somebody gave him a jacket, but it was too late. So when he comes back, he's dry as a bone. Oh. And Holyfield, by this time, Evander, he's that one of them second win guys anyway. He just took him apart, and he won the fight going away. But Bowe, but then after that, they had a third fight. Bowe took on a couple other fights. He fought the guy from London, I forget his name, the English guy, Herbie Hyde, and he fought a couple other guys. And then he had the third fight with Holyfield, and that's when Holyfield had the hole in the state, had the heart attack. I don't know what he had in the ring that night. But anyway, they stopped the fight because his breathing was bad. So, and as a matter of fact, they weren't going to let Holyfield box anymore. But, Benny Hinn healed him, not the doctor that Benny Hinn did. He went to this preacher, and the preacher laid his hands on him, and the next thing you know, he's fine. Okay. I think that a lot of people said it had something to do with he had over-steroided himself too much that time. I don't know how they proved it because he was never tested for it.
I wouldn't think the guy had a heart attack in the middle of the ring.
He didn't have a heart attack. He didn't have one because he went back and won the heavyweight championship of the world again. So sure. And so now there's 3 fights with one of the toughest guys in the history of boxing. Then comes after the other fights with Herbie Hyde, Jorge Gonzalez, the big Cuban from Cuba, the guy with the ponytail. He beat him. Hard fight, but a rugged fight, but not a hard fight. Jorge was just big and strong and slow, and Bowe just out-pounded him. Then we get the fights with Galata, and these are the ones that really did it to him. Galata.
And people, what pisses me off about that is people say that Galata was actually like, when he wasn't doing the low blows, he was actually winning. So why did you do low blows?
He was winning this fight.
But the thing is, like, he was doing low blows from the start.
Yeah, he never
stopped. Of course he's winning. Because after you get punched in the dick 17, 18 times, you can get outboxed pretty easily, And
Holyfield but if you notice, if people watch but people that look at fights, they're not watching the fight. They're looking at the fight. And there's a big difference. If you're watching the fight, you see everything that's going on. We see the low blow. I guarantee you, the referee warned them after about 5 low blows. But man, like you said, he was hit a bunch of times, man.
By that point, his balls were just watermelons.
They was shrunk. Man, it was like, okay, they were like this here. They got 2 bucks. So the referee stops the fight. The referee stops the fight. Now and this was in the Garden. That's when we had this riot. It broke out that night, and man, it was like something oh God, that's a night probably in boxing I would always remember. Because I had to do. It's funny because I had to do the closeout for HBO that night from my international. Our international feed, as you well know, is one place, and HBO is another.
What did you say? What did you say about that?
What happened was, it was funny because after everything started, and but you know what though? I blame the referee.
Oh yeah, you got to
in that fight because he did a horrible job of directing. The rule is always, regardless of what happened, you stop the fight, you send the guy to the corner, you send the other guy to the corner, and then you go and you say, disqualified. Well, he reacted so badly that the corner men jumped into the ring and everybody just started welling away. And then when that happens, everybody is just got crazy. People in the stands start fighting. You had the Polish guys over here, because that night they were running through with the Polish flag, and you had people over here with the American flag. And man, you looked in that day. But the best fight of the night, actually, was really Bowe's sister.
Really?
Oh, man, look. With all this going down, I looked, and his sister was basically standing in the chair. You've seen the cowboy movies where the guys are standing there, and the guy's like knocking the star is like knocking him out. Bam! Guy runs over here. Bam! And he stood up. Bam! Man, she was standing there just knocking guys. I kid you not. She was beating guys. I said, damn, you couldn't help but see that because this is a woman. I'm like, damn, boy.
But it's it's Riddick Bowe's sister, and she's
Riddick
pissed
Bowe's
off.
sister. Boy, she was throwing down. I'm like, well, damn, why is she in the ring? She should be the one. So when all this happens, by this time, George and Larry and Jim are on the air, right? Mm-hmm. And the crowd gets so amped up, they decide they're going to go and get Jim and Larry Merchant. That's because, nobody liked Larry during that time anyway. So you could hear them on the air, and you heard George tell the guy, said, don't do that, son. Don't do that. He stops them basically from getting those guys. So what happened, HBO had to take them from ringside and escort them to the top. They have the little things up the top where the cameras be. They took them up there. So they're away from ringside. And they said, Roy, you got to close it out. Now, here I am. I'm like, well, hell, I want to get out of here, too. I have
yeah, what do you say to that?
So I'm like, okay, I got it, and so here I am. This is my shot. So I get it. And I got my wife behind me here. She's here. Mm-hmm. So I'm worried about her. But it was me and Tommy Morrison working the fight that night. Mm-hmm. I'll always remember that. And Tommy, I don't know what happened to him. He got the hell out of there too. So, and I'm the only idiot standing up there with headphones on. But that was the way it was. And they paid me well for it, I have to admit, but
people are like punching each other in the background of the shot.
Yes, in the background, man. And I'm like, okay, live from Madison Square Garden. If you just tune in to watch this fight, you're not getting the Riddick Bowe and David and what's his name? Gallardo. Yeah, so you're not getting that fight. You're getting Madison Square Garden versus the Bronx versus Queens, because that's what was going on, man. It was crazy in there. And by this time, finally, because you had Spike Lee was over here, then you had, it's New York, so you got the entertainers over here,
all the celebrities and stuff.
All the celebrities, man. All of a sudden, bodyguards couldn't do their job that night, because bodyguards, hell no, I'm not fighting through my job.
You need the National Guard for that.
Yeah, that's what you need. And by the time the police gets in, people kind of, they quieted down a little bit more. And I look over and Riddick Bowe's sister, she has a thing on her eye like a knot on her eye about this big. I kid you not. And I'm like, damn, I want to say the boy, but she held her own. I don't know who did it to her, but that was a night that I will never forget in boxing. That's even to this day, we had to walk back to our hotel room from the Garden. I forget where we were, but we had to walk back to our room because they had blocked off the Garden. The police had blocked it all off. To top that off, we get back to our hotel room.
I was going to ask, is it like crazy outside too? Like outside the stadium?
Well, it kind of slowed down a little bit because this time, New York is on horsebacks and they got, like I said, they blocked off the Garden. Because we must have been in there a good 35, 40 minutes before we ever got out of the building. So, at least with me anyway. And so by the time I get out, it slowed down a little bit. But we get back to the hotel room after all that fiasco there. We get that hotel room. They done broken our safes in the room and stole jewelry. Oh man, it was a crazy night.
My God.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. Just about everybody's room that night that I know that was part of the fight got the safes in their room were broken into. That was my wife. We just talked about this the other day, man. It was crazy, And people say, well, that's boxing. No, that's not boxing. That's not boxing.
Oh, yeah, that's just boxing. It's just riots and theft and
That was a hell of a fight night. But, when I think about it, I can say, okay, ride in the Garden. I got a chance to be a part of something that, that went down.
Part of history. Yeah.
But that was crazy, crazy, crazy. And the rematch was, and that kind of changed a lot of things with boxing. As far as you notice now, you don't see a lot of people get in the rings anymore. So they start stopping that, because they stopped there. Larry Hazard definitely does a great job the other night. He's like, no, nobody gets in that ring except the fighter, the trainers, and the managers. That's it. No more of the friends jumping in. So they started doing a good job on that now. So in some things it changed, but
I can't even imagine being that hot. And then like after 12, 15 rounds, and then people all rush you and crowd their body heat together.
Exactly. And that's what it was. That's what it was like that night. But, Riddick Bowe, I think that two guys got some jail time out of that because the guy, you see the highlight, you don't see the guy with his cell phone. It wasn't a cell phone, it was a walkie-talkie. and he's over there like beating this guy across the head with the walkie-talkie. Oh yes, oh yeah. And of course, the next day they had a press conference.
The guy on the other end of the walkie-talkie just hears like.
Yeah, right. So what is that noise? I don't know, but he's beating the hell out of somebody. That's what he's doing, and that's exactly what he was doing. And it come to find out, I think it was Rock Newman's nephew. And I think they gave him maybe 6 months for assault or something like that. Of course, Rock was suspended because Rock jumps into the ring. And, it was crazy. Well, of course, they made the rematch in Atlantic City, and all the Bowe people couldn't go. But by this time, Galata was not only, and just to tell people, they said low blows, but look at the back of the neck. That he hit, man, so many. I guess that's rabbit punching too. I don't know what they call that.
Yeah, that's rabbit punching, where you reach around and go. Yeah,
he hit him in the. Galata did everything
No, that can mess up your spine. Like bad.
It messed up it did everything wrong with him. The second fight, the same thing happened. After that, Riddick, his whole conversation, David, was just totally different. His speech slowed down. I think that was the last fight Riddick had. I don't remember doing that. We didn't do another fight with him. That was it. The kid only lost one fight his whole career, and that was to Holyfield. But everybody remembers, the Holyfield fights, of course. But then the Galata fights. But if they could only see the difference in the impact that those five fights, more than anybody else, is what really put Bowe in the situations for his speech impediment. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of,
I feel kind of bad now. I did an April Fool's video on Galata or Galato, I forget which one it is, but about how much he fouled. So like it was April Fool's, and I put the incredible fouls of Galata, and then the whole video was me saying what a genius he was for using these techniques, but making fun of him the whole way. So I feel good. I feel good I made fun of him. But Bowe was featured a lot. Yes. If I know there was brain damage.
It was.
Yeah. It was. But it was all about the dick punches. If I'd known he got damaged, if his spine or his head got damaged in those fights, then I wouldn't have put him out, honestly.
When you get a chance to go, well, that's okay. That's boxing.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get a chance to go back and review that. Now, Riddick Bowe, there was always a joke about Riddick Bowe. Big guy, but a little head.
Oh, really?
Yes. His head just didn't match his body. So quite naturally, if you take that pounding like he did, and with the brain, the brain thing going back and forth like that, you have to realize. But when I tell you, I remember talking to Bowe maybe in 92, and then talking to him in 96. It was just so amazing. It's like, man, this guy, and now it's even worse. James Toney, another one of those guys that kind of have that. Tony's not as bad. You can understand him a little bit better, but Bowe, you have to slow. I talk to him on the phone all the time.
Okay.
But Bowe, you have to really slow the conversation down and let ask him a question, and then he talks for a minute, and he kind of gets spurs. But once he gets to going, he gets excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was thinking maybe I got him on a good day or something.
You got him on a good day. And if there was a kid that loved being heavyweight champion of the world, he loved it.
That's what he said. He cracked me up so bad. He's like, it was better than when my first son was born or something like that.
Yeah, he loved it, man. I'm telling you, he loved it better than anybody I've ever seen. Because to him, I guess he is from, that part of New York. Him and Tyson from Brownsville. Okay. And in Brooklyn, in Brownsville. I'm not sure how it goes, but that's where they're from. So, and it's a neighborhood, I guess, back then that a lot of guys, and he told me this once in me interviewing him, as we always did the pre-fight interviews. And I found out Eddie Mustafa's from there. Of course, Tyson was from there. He's some great fighters. But their biggest was the pimps and the hustlers. That was who they admired more because they had cars, they had clothes, they had money.
Oh, yeah.
You became a boxer, then, hey, you got clothes, and you got women. So that was the thing that made, that he appreciated all those things he could do for his mom and for his family and everything. But along the way, Riddick always had this thing of being a little bit lethargic when it came to training. And that's how Rock Newman wound up with that's how Rock Newman wound up with him, because
I get what you said. Okay,
yeah. A lot of people don't know this because Butch Lewis had him first. And Butch
you're talking about trainers.
Yeah, but
okay.
not
managers. Okay, yeah.
And because he won the silver medal in the Olympics, so Don didn't get him. Butch had him, but Butch said he was lazy. So Rock calls up Butch and said, "Let me have him." And Butch said, "Man, it's a waste of time, but you take him. All right, that's it. He's gone."
Yeah, because now that I think about it, he was Kronk Jim, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Well,
yeah.
They started out there, but they didn't stay.
Oh, okay.
And because he was from, but because of the Olympics, and Emmanuel had a lot of those guys, that he trained and worked with. But the problem was, he had this lazy. Well, I hate to use the word. Now that is the word they use. Butch said he was lazy. Yeah, like Butch said, "Oh, he's lazy," so he's not going anywhere. Rock took him, and Papa Smurf got hold to him. Eddie Futch. Futch got hold to him, and Futch really seen something in this kid. And I tell people to this day, Riddick Bowe may have been the best inside heavyweight fighter I ever seen. The guy could be this. Look at the Holyfield fights.
No, his uppercuts were incredible.
His uppercut was amazing, man. And Eddie Futch taught him how to throw that punch. And you talking about a guy that's 6'5".
Yeah.
That could throw a punch like a 5'10" guy, man. And he had that.
Yeah, tall guys who could uppercut are really terrifying.
Oh, really terrifying.
Yeah, especially if they don't need to sink down too low first. Like if there's very little setup, like Bowe, it's just a really slight shrug and you don't even know it's coming.
Yeah. And so Futch taught him all the dynamics, but he couldn't, you can't make a guy, especially when he's, he go from cotton to silk. And he's got $2 or $3 million in the bank and says 5:30 in the morning, man, we got to get up and hit the road before the light come up. You're like, ain't nothing wrong with the light. I wanted for the light to come up. They don't wake up. So once he made a little money, it hit him back again. The laziness kind of went back on him again. He just never had, he wanted to be champion, but he never had that, he could never get back that feeling of working as hard as he did to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And that's really, and I love Riddick. But that's really what the success spoiled him. I would have liked to seen him be maybe 32 or 33 years of age, maybe 35 when he won those things, because maybe he appreciates it a little bit more because you got to work harder.
Yeah.
But I think that's success. That was a book, that was a movie once called Will Success or Rock Hunter? Well, it's the same thing with Riddick Bowe. It's like, did success? Yes. Too much, too fast. In 1 year, and then in a year and a half, man, this guy had some hellacious fights. And then by 95, he was pretty much out of the picture. That's the amazing thing. Pretty much out of the picture, never got a chance anymore. So, but that, I guess we started backwards. You edited the way you wanted to go.
I like how we're doing it like a stream of consciousness thing a lot better. And it feels a lot more natural and is flowing, especially if we're only doing it once a month. We can make these long.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But
but that was the history. But the heavyweight division during that time was so competitive. If you think about it, you go back and you look in we can say 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. Started kind of between the 70s until about the early 2000s.
And now we have Spence and Crawford, and you can't get a fight made in 5 years. And we have Triple G and Canelo taking 4 years between fight. Yeah. And people, and the thing is, boxing. I don't think boxing is dying, and I don't think boxing is struggling. But I think the quality of fights, per year,
is killing it.
Yeah.
It's killing it.
I don't think it's dying. I don't think it'll ever die. I think it could be so much bigger than it is. Especially, and people are conditioned to seeing all these great fights now in MMA, in Muay Thai, in kickboxing. The best fight the best all the time.
Right. But you know what it is? What happens? And the scenario. Let me paint this little picture for you, since we got, we're breaking things down. Let's start television. late 50s to 60s, right?
Mm.
Gillette comes in with the Friday night fights. People got a chance to see all these fighters, right? People got to know. If you lived in California, you knew the champion in New York. Guy was fighting in New York, you saw him in California. On every Friday night, you were going to get these fights done. So when the guy got to be a champion, he defended his fight, not on pay-per-view, not on closed circuit, on television.
Yeah.
So people got to see them. The promotional part, Gillette, they had I think it was Gillette Friday Night Fights. We talked about shaving, but Gillette, that was their thing. A real man, a real man shaved. They had a boxer. Well, it might not have been a boxer, but, a guy, an actor. But at the same time, he's shaving. Presents Friday Night Fights. Promotion is what done that. Into the 70s, as television, the advent of the closed circuit gets big. Ali, late 60s, Liston, then Ali, and Frazier, George, Ali, all these fights took place on closed circuit television. But there were promotions that they did. When's the last time, and I say this, we talk Spence and Crawford. People tell me that's a big fight. It is, David. It's a big fight. But you know what? It could be the biggest fight that nobody sees.
And if they handle it wrong. Yeah.
If they handle it wrong. Now, the other night, we at Prudential Center with Shakur Stevenson's fight, right? Terrence Crawford's in the crowd.
Yeah, him and Stevenson are close, right? Or at least that's what they're saying.
Yes, they are. Keyshawn Davis' fight, so he's in the crowd. There's this rapper, Fabulous. Don't ask me who. I don't know when the hell he is.
I have no idea about a Fabulous.
Yeah, right. But the kids around us, they kept saying, that's Fab. Okay. I told the guy, I don't know who he is, but they say he's Fabulous. So, okay, Fabulous. Now, they're screaming about Fabulous. Nobody said a word about Terrence Crawford. There was no buzz. Terrence Crawford's in the building. So, now, the same thing happened with Errol Spence somewhere. And it was like, people say, that's Errol Spence. Oh, that's Errol Spence. Oh, really? Okay. Boom, it kept going. See, there's no in the 70s,
you and I would freak out about that. Not freak out, not you, because you've been around your whole life. I would freak out about that, but I have no idea who Fabulous is. And that's the thing, is it's the opposite for most people. But like, people would rather see YouTubers with like 1 to 2 years or maybe even a month experience.
Month of experience of boxing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the boxers are getting more socially savvy. I think they really need to get an online presence, and hopefully, but more than anything, more than that online presence, so people know who they are or whatever, they need to actually fight
each other,
that people can see them. Yeah.
Yes. I call the Charlo brothers. They're the middleweight champions of Instagram. Because they're on that damn thing every day.
I don't see anything wrong with that. It's only wrong if it's all social media and no fights. I know Ryan Garcia's gotten
but David, they fight once a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Once a year and say I'm the best.
And I can't blame them though, because they can get away with that. Because everyone's doing that. People are on Ryan Garcia. I'm like, Ryan Garcia is making so much money, and he's a star, and he's got all these girls that love him. And why would he feel that hunger or that need to? And apparently he has the emotional issues or something like that. And that's cool. That's cool of him that he's willing to back away for a little bit and get his head straight. And I don't blame him at all for that. But why we can have to fight if he doesn't want to. He really doesn't.
Know why we can overlook Garcia and even Tank Davis, because they're 25 years of age, I think 26, something like that. Young boys. There's a time.
But that's still you only have 10 years left at the most at that point. And nowadays that's not a long time. If you're taking a fight or two a year, like how many of those are going to be against actual people that are relevant? Right?
Yeah,
like is that 1 or 2 fight you have that year going to be even against a top 10 contender, or is it the number 9 contender in the ABC belt that you happen to have?
Well,
You know?
yeah, and you got to look hard to find that guy too. I was down right at the bottom.
Yeah. Go on
BoxRec,
and you're like, I don't recognize any of these people this guy's fought, you know?
But you know, nobody, I ask people this. Who was the last fighter, really, that was, and I'm not talking about George. George was self-promoted. He did his own thing. You know, we came back, he made his own. He had two things going with him. He was an older fighter. He had a history of knocking people out, and he continued that when he came. So we're talking about 20. So eliminate him because we paraded, man. We did. But the last fighter that was actually really promoted was Mike Tyson. I'm talking about promoted from amateurs to the pros.
Had his own video game. I like as a kid, I had no idea who Mike Tyson was until I got Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Yeah. And then I found out afterwards he was a real person. Like, because I brought up the game in school. I'm like, I thought this was a video game villain they made up. This is a real guy. Like, I've got to see this guy.
I knew George knew Jimmy Jacobs, and I met Jimmy Jacobs. We were in New York for something one year, and I was young, but we were in New York. But I remember them having conversations, right? And I remember two things Jimmy Jacobs said. I must have been 22. I was young, 21, 22. But I remember two things he said. He said, if I ever had me a heavyweight champion of the world, he said, the first thing I do is a boxer, not heavyweight champion of the world. But he said, the first thing I would do is teach him how to play handball. Right? Because Jimmy Jacobs was like the best handball player a lot of people don't know that, but he was like the world's best handball player for a number of years. Well, you know, if you didn't play handball, what the hell? You handball, you know, guy hitting the ball against the wall, but there's something to that, right? I didn't understand at the time, but then he said dexterity. That was the whole idea. He said the next thing I would do is I would send his videos all across the country. Now, as you said, you got Punch Out before you knew who Mike Tyson was. But when Mike had his first 5 or 6 fights, I remember this thing here. The guys, a friend of mine, I was working at, maybe I left ABC then. I had, but a friend of mine had ABC, was sports director at ABC. And he asked me one night, he said, you know about this kid, Mike Tyson? I said, no, not really. He said, oh man, they sent me a video of this guy, right? And I went to the studio, he showed me, he's knocking this kid. They was calling him Kid Dynamite then. And so he's, you know, sort of knocking these guys out. You know,
the poor amateurs that got 16-year-old Mike Tyson. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get my confidence up. I'm going to have some fun. I'm in a team environment. I'm up against this kid, Mike Tyson. How many fights does he have? He has 0 fights. I have 2 fights. Okay, I'm just going to outbox him. This is going to, like 13 seconds. Hits the canvas twice.
Out. So Jimmy put together, and the reason I can tell you about that, Jimmy put together a reel. And when he turned pro, he sent these across the country. One night, the guy says, let me tell you about this kid named Mike Tyson. He's 7-0, 8-0 at the time. Man, this guy, perhaps one of the best knockout guys in boxing. So he previewed, he shows 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it was on the sports site he had that night, knocking guys out. Bam! Well, he was coming to Houston. He was on like this little swing, right? He fought in Dallas, fought in Houston, going to California. I think they're moving across the country. Jimmy did, but he was sending videos ahead of him everywhere he goes. So they give him, so by the time you show that a few stations pick it up, now all of a sudden this kid, Mike Tyson. And that's why at 19 fights, he got a shot at the title because they had built him up to be the Kid Dynamite went from Kid Dynamite to Iron Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? He got
you make an excellent point. Like, yes, you need he did both things right. He had all those knockdowns to start with, which is necessary, you know? And then he sent it out, which today would be social media. You know? And I did something, there's this 7-time world champion kickboxer named Gabriel Varga. And he had a YouTube channel. Kickboxing is not big in America. I wouldn't expect you to know, but that's my point. He had a small YouTube channel. I reached out to him. I was larger. I think I was like 200,000 at the time subs. And then I'm like, do you want to do like a guest thing? He did it, yada, yada. But it wasn't until we worked together, I think for like a second or third time. And he's like, here's how I beat Lordzilla, which is a Muay Thai legend that people already knew about. So he had those clips of him knocking them out. right?
Okay.
Yeah. So he had all the knockouts. He had that really cool footage, but he was missing that step of the social media to bring that awareness to the public. And once that video got out, that video went huge. You know, took a little while, but then it spiked way up. And now he's got 100,000 subs. And whenever he decides to stop fighting, he's set too, because he has that channel. He uploads every day. Yeah, but people from the channel are all viewing his fights now because he's got 100,000 subs, and that's going to generate so much interest. That's what they need to do.
David, nobody promotes anymore. Now,
yeah, that's my point.
The other night, Shakur Stevenson, I'm going to say it's the arena where the New Jersey Devils played. It was packed. Okay, Shakur Stevenson comes home, defends his title. Of course, he didn't defend the title because he didn't make weight. So that pissed me out there. And to me, okay, I know you want to move up to 135, and that's fine. Okay, nothing wrong with it. You want to move up. But at least allow your people in your hometown to see you defend your world title at least one time. I think he deprived all the kids, because that was the whole thing. The city bought tons of tickets. They promoted the city around. People came. I think he denied the young kids the chance to see him. Okay, they saw him fight, but he didn't defend his title.
I'm not going to give an opinion on that one way or the other, because I don't want to. I just made a breakdown on him, and then he's working with Top Rank and everything. But I will say though that that it seems like a difficult decision to make when you have because we don't know where his body was. If he's already at his very, very limit, is it worth that extra pound and a half to affect your performance and then if you mess up, it's the rest of your career. Well, but I will say you have an excellent point as well.
I love Shakur. I've always loved him as an amateur, and of course as a pro. I followed him, and again, I know him, his grandfather, all of them. I know everybody at Top Rank. If I can't, this is just my opinion.
Yeah,
I would have liked to seen him defend his title at home that night. The guy he fought,
I think we all would have. I don't think anyone's arguing that.
I think the guy and don't get me wrong, the crowd was behind him all at the same time, but it won't go down as a title defense. You understand that? That's where the historical part comes in. When you say a guy came on defending his title, no, he didn't defend his title in front of 18,000 people. He didn't. But he came home, about Top Rank in national broadcast, and it was great. My thing is this now. How do you build on this? Because the boxing writers who, don't get me wrong, because I haven't met, the only one I really appreciate is Michael Woods. He's a great, Michael's my friend, but he's a great writer.
Okay.
But most of those guys, because Michael can be honest about himself, you know what I mean? And he can be critical of himself and everybody else too, and he doesn't mind. He's a great writer. But they said, okay, laziness. See, people sometimes read, the last thing people read is what they go by.
Yeah.
Shakur loses his title to the scales. It's like saying, well, he didn't work hard to get here, because we know he worked hard to get there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He didn't even try to he did 1.6 pounds. The guy, listen, yeah, he could have been dehydrated to the point that he didn't want to do it anymore. But there's a fact that I guarantee you, he came into Newark back home that Sunday when he came into town, he was 5 or 6 pounds overweight already. Now, and there are some things that I've heard about throughout that maybe true, maybe not. I know the kid works hard. I've seen him get up, do his road work. And I know Bob, I know how Aaron supports his fighters. Okay. And as I said before, Top Rank's the best organization in boxing. But to me, I think as a fighter, especially in those lightweight division, now he can move up at 135 easily. Okay. This guy he fought the other night, he could have fought him at 140 and wouldn't have been no difference. It wouldn't have bought it. He would have beat the guy either way it goes. Could have fought him at 125 and beat this guy. The guy wasn't that much. Shakur is probably the best boxer, I think, out of all of them, out of the young. Tank is the toughest fighter, maybe Tank Davis.
The best pure boxer, even if we're talking like going up the 5 pounds against Haney and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's the best. I really do. the problem's going to come in his lack of punching power. Does he get more power? I don't think you develop power when you move up. If you can't punch hard at 135, you're not punching hard at 140. Just because you got an extra 5 pounds somewhere.
It's usually the opposite, to where like you can't hang as well.
Down a little bit. Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, the only one I could think of is Hearns, and Hearns had a freaky. He still does, I'm sure, has a freaky body. Yeah,
Tommy was just freaky. Tommy would have been freaky at 112. You know, I mean, a man used to tell me in the gym that he was beating guys like Jimmy Paul and all those guys when he was like 15 to 16 years of age. Donald Curry, he was beating all those guys. That's how good he was. Whenever he told me one time he was boxing with was it Jimmy Paul, Curry, or the other kid he had there. Anyway, they had done a few rounds, and the kid was kind of getting the best of Tommy, right? He said, but he could see in his mind that Tommy made up, okay, this is the last round I'm taking. The guy's boxing the hell out of Tommy, so I'm not taking this out. He says, so finally, in the middle of the round, Tommy just landed that right hand. Bam! That
only takes one.
That was the even Steven right there. Right? From that point on there, it became a real boxing match because the guy wasn't wading in trying to knock Tommy out anymore, you know, because Tommy had made it even level. He was about 135 then, 135 then. So, but when I look at Shakur, he has great movement. You know, I don't want him to go to 135 and get lethargic and think to the point that I'm at 35 now, I can just do what I want to with these guys because these guys have been there for a while. Tank's been there for a while. Lomachenko, I think at this point, I see Lomachenko like
he's getting up there in age.
I see like Golovkin and Canelo the other night. 2 years ago, you don't think about putting him in the ring with Shakur. But now, you know, they're talking about.
I mean, we'll see how he does against. I forget who he's fighting next. He's fighting someone.
This guy, Gara, somebody.
I'll check him out. No disrespect to him. I just literally saw that he was fighting, and I don't know who he's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I just seen it on Fight News. I still can't tell you who it is. But I mean, because they added Nico Ali Walsh, whatever his name is. They added him to the fight card. Ali's grandson. Oh, that's why. Yeah,
I should check him out too. I actually haven't.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, we'll get to that one. Trust me, that's a long way to go with that.
Okay,
but he may develop, you know. But right now, they better be careful with him. But as from a standpoint of you got Lopez, Davis, Lomachenko, Haney, and still Kambosos. That's Kambosos in the mix because I'm not sure. This time,
we'll see if he learned. Yeah,
if he learned,
he's got the skill and he's got the talent, but we'll see if he's able to apply it. And Haney's no joke either. So.
And that's why I say I'm not sure Haney comes back with the title this time. We could be looking at a trilogy in that fight. I'm serious because remember the fight between Horn and Pacquiao a couple of years ago, right? Nobody gave a damn that Pacquiao beat Horn 9 out of 12 rounds. They gave a doggone decision to Horn.
Yeah, I remember that. That was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. Why? They made a rematch. Man, it beats the crap out of him the second time because there was a lot of money involved. You know what I'm saying? The rematch was bigger than the first fight. Well, if he beats if Kambosos beats him, you got a third trilogy, and it probably takes place here. Now, that fight's really big. But I don't think Haney wants to lose it all because he likes that idea of being undefeated like Shakur. Teofimo's not anymore, but, you know, he still think that puts him in that elite class.
I'm hoping that MMA and then to a lesser degree kickboxing and Muay Thai, the attitude they have since they're becoming more popular, to where like their top level pound per pound greatest of all time, like, you know, the 5 people in contention have a bunch of losses. Why? Because they fought all the other top 5 guys over and over and over again, sometimes 5 times. I'm hoping that energy filters back into boxing a little bit. You don't think so? Okay. I know your attitude on that then. Yeah, just laugh in my face, Roy.
That was the best one of the night. They said when a comedian when he does that one zigger, bam, okay, he's left the building. Listen. I went to see Don Rickles one time. He said that, you know, he's been working that joke for 20 years. Hell, I'm through. He put it down. It finally worked. The crowd went berserk. You know, but what could happen, the possibility of that happening is like very, very, And I think the reasons behind it is because people put so much into that 49-0 crap with Floyd Mayweather. That's what did it. Because nobody ever worried about a fighter being 37-2 or 36, because why? He fought everybody. Ray Leonard fought everybody. Marvin Hagler cleaned out the top 10 in his division. That's how he got the fight with Ray, because he had beaten everybody. Alan Mentor, all those other, he had beaten Mustafa Hamshu. He had beaten all those guys. It didn't matter. So, okay, he fought the great guys. Tommy, Ray, Duran, Benitez, Vasquez, Aguayo, all those guys fought each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a thing of whether I think I can whip you. You know, that's what it was. It wasn't even, they didn't even argue money.
So if going back to Crawford and Spence, if Crawford has that attitude, why isn't the fight happening? Is it just the bicep thing, or?
No, there's nothing wrong with his bicep. The guy sit there and did this, man. Nothing wrong with his bicep. I think it's the thing of he wants to be. He doesn't have a promoter, remember?
Oh, I thought, but maybe I misheard. I thought you told me earlier he said his bicep was messed up or something.
No. There was an article that came out said his bicep.
Oh, but it wasn't true. Okay.
And I told him that night, and he said, "No." He said, "Man," he said, "Look, you know, he made a little muscle and everything." I said, "Okay, I got you, man."
And he wasn't faking it. He's perfectly fine.
No, wasn't faking it out. Somebody put. That's because I knew, but they knew this fight was not going to take place November 19th. First, you cannot take a fight like this, David, and make it November 19th. In 6 weeks, you cannot do it, especially when neither guy has been fighting.
Yeah.
It can't be done. And I'm telling you right now, because these guys are not the kind of guys that the guy next door to you or I are talking about, or the guy at the job. Man, did you see Spence and Crawford? Did you hear about Spence and Crawford? They don't care. Yeah. They don't know about it. You know, my thing would be this, and again, I go back to the things that I was able to do and was able to get people to do when George came back, because it works. The model works. I would call up, and it's funny, but I would call up people at Tonight Show, Today Show, Good Morning America, and all this, right?
Yeah.
And they say, I said, "Can you get George Foreman on the show?" Larry King, even, you know, this is before Larry King, when he got popular, it was easy. Once he got popular, it was easy. But in the beginning, call up Carson. We had a relationship with Carson from the 70s. Well, he did, I did, but he did. So I knew Barbera, because I had worked with her when I was at ABC, but she was now Johnny Carson's production person, right? What they call it? Executive producer, I should say. And you call up and say, "Can I get George?" And you're like, "Oh, I don't know, George. You know, he's boxing again." You know, yeah, you know, he's boxing again. So let me ask Johnny. Well, Johnny loved George. Yeah. So Johnny said, "Okay, you know, I'll give him, you know, let him come on at the end of the show." You know, that's what he used to do back then. He did everything, did his thing. He said, "Okay." So he gets George the last few minutes. George killed him, making jokes about himself and everything. And Johnny was like, "I got to have you back." Now, you got Carson that's saying, "Damn, that's at that time." It's like, whoa, Carson said he'd have him back. Then all of a sudden, Letterman was coming on late at night. Letterman said, "I want him. You know, bring him on." George make everybody laugh. By this time, now, the morning shows, they wanted him on. The breath of fresh air. You know, he'd laugh at himself. See,
people forget. Yeah, people forget that you might be able to make about the same point, actually. People forget that you could do this in a positive way. Like, yes, the only way that a lot of fighters know how to do it nowadays is just like insulting the other. Oh, he insulted the other fighter's kid. He insulted his wife. That makes me not want to watch the fight personally.
I don't want to watch it because I don't like the guy. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to. See, now Errol Crawford, and to say this with him, Errol Spence is a very low key guy, and so is Terrence Crawford. They're not.
And that's part of the problem, I feel like.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But see, what I said, what I would do with Terrence Crawford right now, if I had that promotion, like I said, I had a group that's offered him 10 million. We're going to find out since it's off the table now, because it's falling through. Maybe they can come back and make the offer again, and maybe if somebody else comes in with the money, and Terrence doesn't feel like he's being used by the other fighters promoted, he might be willing to jump on board with it now. So I'm going to keep trying. Okay. But Terrence, about a month ago, they had and I don't know if you saw the video or not, of Terrence Crawford's daughter. She was in a track meet, right? She's running, her shoe comes off. They pass her up, the runners. Man, she puts her shoe backs up on. She runs and catches all of and wins the race. This thing was on Good Morning America, Today Show. What's that funny guy comes to that? Trevor Noah.
Okay.
Everybody had her on that video, right? Nobody really knew at the time it was Terrence Crawford's daughter, but when it came out, it's Terrence Crawford's daughter. Now, you think if I had Terrence Crawford on me, traveling, I'd say, hey, man, you got to bring your daughter with you a couple of these interviews because people are going to want to talk to her. That's your dad? Yeah. See, that's a gimme. Nobody has brought that up at all. That would be my way of promoting this. Because now, what have you just done?
You understand how the internet works better than the guys in their 20s and 30s and how to promote. You know, I assume that's who's working with these guys as their social media managers. I mean, I assume they have that. That's ridiculous. They didn't do anything.
No, that they did nothing with that. You know, I would have that little girl. You know, if you went on Today's Show tonight, you got to bring her with you. You know, because they're gonna ask you about it. You bring her up with you, at least a couple. I understand she's in school, but 1 or 2 times you bring her to a couple shows. Let her get some. You know, they're gonna run that. Now, what you've just done, you've captured America's heart again because your little daughter. You know, I think she's like 12 years old. She's a young little girl. So I mean, that's what made it so much. She did not.
That's a pretty badass move for a little girl.
That's a badass move, man. And so now now the mothers and the fathers, they're watching Terrence Crawford. Well, what's his name is more into horses and dogs. Well, I do the same thing. I may go interview Crawford at his place where his horses is. See, because you can get the animal lovers. You know, you got to bring in that group of people because I know for a fact that when we got to the point of the first $1 million one of them pay-per-view things was actually George and Cooney. They did 1 million on. We did 1 million on with that fight, right? And the record had been George and Tyson George and Holyfield 1.2 for a long time. And of course, Tyson came and shattered that. But still, we're talking about a guy that's 40 years old. But because because he laughed at himself, America started laughing with him. Because why? He kept winning. And man, we would go to places and people would just come stand in line and take pictures. They don't even do that anymore. These fighters come into places about 2 days before the fight. They don't have open train. Everything is a damn secret. These people don't stand in line. When George and we had those fights, Holyfield, Bowe, we talked about earlier with those guys. They go into Sunday and they'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they would train. People would come out, take pictures with them. That promoted the fight. They don't do that anymore. So that you said, the social media thing is great, but just think if you added put all of that together, you're talking about 1 million people that you're going to pull into. And that's what I hope, if they listen to this, somebody got to say, that's a doggone good idea. The punch we didn't see. Oh, what the stuff we didn't know. That's what it should be, the stuff they don't know. But that's not reinventing the wheel, man. It's just like we're adding a little. It's
pretty basic, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. Your promotion, but television, now you got some of the networks. HBO was giving these guys money. Showtime was giving them money. They don't need to promote. All they want is that. And the casinos killed boxing to a point as well from a attendance standpoint because Las Vegas, Atlantic City, okay, the tickets went to the high rollers. Then people flew out to Vegas, but most of the tickets got to be comp. No, Atlantic City doesn't have a group of people around here that would buy 5,000 tickets to a fight. I guarantee they don't. 10,000. Now, you bring people from Philadelphia, New York, because it's a bigger fight, yeah. But the areas don't have it. No big cities, very few big cities. Newark, that's what made Shakur so impressive is that he's from Newark, and they supported him. But if you can bring
people are saying that he's a boring fighter. I'm like, that's the most ridiculous. I don't know where the disconnect is because to me, he feels very flashy, but maybe that's just because I realize he's doing something very dangerous.
Yes.
He's right on that edge there between between here and here. That's where he's gambling. This is getting knocked out. This is knocking the other guy out. This is where his head is, and it's there all the time. And people say he's boring. It kills me.
I watched him the other night with this kid, and he never got any, like you just said, he never got any further than 2 feet away from this guy.
That's
man.
Incredible. That's
the
absolutely
guy couldn't
incredible.
land a freaking punch on him, man. You know, I'm like that. He hit him with a couple of shots. I mean, it's fight, but basically the kid did nothing to him. He hit the boy low a few times too. You know, I mean, but my thing is, don't.
I'm sorry. Go on.
No,
I'll make my point afterwards.
No, let's finish that because I can come back. I can talk, so I can.
Okay. There's this concept in Thailand. I forget what it's called, but it's like I was talking with someone about it the other day on Twitter, and it's like how you bear yourself in a fight and the presence that you show in a fight to where it could and it's a big part of like scoring over there in Thailand. It's like, are you reacting to getting punched? Are you acting like you're winning essentially? And what was really interesting about that, I'm like, you know what? I've seen some fights where the public and sometimes the judges think the guy's losing because of his bearing, like he looks frustrated, you know? And I think a lot of people kind of got that intent maybe from Shakur, that because he couldn't knock the guy out, he looked to some people like he was getting frustrated, like he couldn't do anything, like he couldn't hit anybody. And it's like, I'm sure you could kind of tell he was frustrated. He wanted the big flashy knockout finish for the crowd. But a lot of people, I think, misinterpreted that as he's not doing that well. He's not that impressive, which is ridiculous if you know what you're actually looking at.
If you know, that's what my thing is, I always tell them to look at the other guy's face after it's over with. So,
after it's over with, exactly. You know, yeah.
What you mean he didn't hit him? The guy's got 3 eyes.
Yeah, and instead they're looking at Stevenson's face, seeing he's frustrated, he can't put the guy on the canvas, and they're like, oh, he's not doing that well. He's not an exciting fighter.
Some guys just have those chins. I'm saying Shakur is not going to be that type of fighter. If you look at Ray Leonard,
and you shouldn't expect him to be. What he's doing is beautiful as it is. Yeah.
He's a 130-pound guy. Not many killers at this. And he's a little guy, man. You know, come on. Not many got everybody Roberto Duran. Again, one guy's a boxer, one guy's a killer. Duran could have been a professional killer if he wanted to be. You know, that was just his mentality.
Some people are just on another level too, you know?
That's it. So when the fight was over, look at this guy's face, man. Like, damn, he beat the crap out of this guy. But I know he wanted a knockout. But you, at the same time, how many times have a guy thought he had a fella, especially the last 2 rounds of a fight, you decide to go after him, Michael Moore, rather than move out of the way, and you find yourself looking up. You find yourself looking up at the camera. See, that's at the lights, counting the lights at the top of the building. And I admire him for that. Yeah, you know, people say no, but to me, my wife became a fan of his because she was like, oh, okay, this fight. But then she got a chance to see Keyshawn Davis, and she got a chance to see Shakur. She heard me talk about both these kids, you know. And she was like, she enjoyed it. She enjoyed it. Keyshawn wins by stoppage. He didn't knock the guy, but he went by stoppage. You know, Keyshawn probably, if he decides to pour it on this guy, maybe the referee does step in. But the guy was taking the shot, so the ref really didn't have an opportunity to stop the fight. And because they would have done that, it was, he stopped the fight too early, you know. So it's 2 sides to this thing. But my whole thing is that now they need to bring him to see if he has a road travel. Bring him to Atlantic City to see if you can get that crowd. I'm not talking to Vegas because that's a plane trip. And most of the people know, you know, it's a poor city, but at the surrounding areas. But if you bring him to Atlantic City, and you can still get that 12,000, 13,000. Now you got your potential budding superstar on your hands, like they did with Arturo Gatti. Arturo Gatti was fighting in the ice rink for many years, and then they brought him here to Atlantic City, the Bally's, the small arena, you know, then the Caesars in the little bigger room. Then next thing they say, okay, he's ready for the boardwalk. It's called Boardwalk Hall is the room, is the hall that Gatti built, right? Because they enlarged it because of the crowds and things. See. You have to work on those particular things. But these promoters are not working like that anymore, David. And that's the reason I blame the boxers, but I can tell you this for a fact. I knew it. That was a time if a boxer said, I want to fight David. No, we think you ought to fight Roy. Look, I don't care what you think. I want to fight David. You made that fight. You understand? Promoter, because why? I don't work for a promoter. The promoter works for me. I want to show I'm the best. Ray Leonard didn't have to fight Roberto Duran. the first time, when Duran out decision him, because Ray was a golden child, and everybody knew Duran had more experience. This was going to be, and Ray admits it, the lights just blew him out. He had never been, even with the Olympics, he hadn't been on this type of stage,
Yeah. What the other guy's saying he's going to kill him,
Yeah, the other guy said, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And that's the difference. So Ray became a superstar after the Duran fight, not before, because, he was just winning regular matches. So he fought Duran, he loses. But he became more of a star because it was a decision. And he said, okay, I want the rematch. And then a few years, a few months later, bam, they're back in the ring. And this time, he called Duran. Duran was going on, I just beat the golden child. So, celebrating, right? That's what he was doing, eating all those them black beans down there in New York, stuffing himself up. So they got him. It's okay, we'll make the rematch. And they made it. But by this time, Duran wasn't, they were absolutely right. He wasn't ready. But Ray was. See, the same thing with guys like Bowe, Holyfield, Liston, Ali, Patterson, Liston, all those fights we could name, that the reason the fights were made because the fighters wanted them. Now I can this behind my promoter. Oh, promoter, I don't want that fight, man.
Okay, but you said that Crawford wants it, right? He wants that legacy.
Yes.
I would assume Spence wants Crawford, or what do you think? Does he want him right now?
I was a big Spence guy. I told you that before. I was 100% behind, but I think now it's gotten to the point. I'm not sure he wants it.
Really?
You got to remember that he had a tragic accident 2 years ago.
I remember with the car accident. Yeah.
So when you look at that, and he dominated Ugas. I think the guy named he beat last time he fought him. Ugas. He beat David him. Mikey Garcia, was not much of a puncher. Danny Garcia wasn't much of a puncher. He was Mikey Garcia. But you get in there with a guy when you get in there with a ring with a guy that wants to kick your butt, David, and he wants to kick your butt, you got to feel like you're 100% ready. I just don't think that he has locked in his mind that he's 100% ready for Crawford. Personally,
there was the car accident, and then there was the eye thing, right?
The eye thing. Yeah, because the reason he didn't get to fight with Pacquiao because of the eye thing. Ugas steps in and beats Pacquiao, right? And that would have made him more of an attention name because why? He fought and beat Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao has a whole nother world of supporters behind him than Ugas did, right? So I think that with the difficulty of not having had that particular fight, knowing that this kid wants to fight you, this is just my opinion. And I've been in the head of a few boxers. I can kind of like tell when they're thinking hard about it. I think that in the back of his mind, he said to himself, "If I lose to this guy, damn, the pound for pound thing is gone." He's been saying all along that
that's why you take the fight 5 years earlier, so that you still have a legacy to build after that.
Yes,
I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. I'm not saying that's what's happening with Spence. This is all just speculation. I'm not saying, but and I'm sure that in his head, Spence does want the fight and he wants it badly. But like you're saying, does he know if he's prepared? Like you're saying, because you want to be 100% the best you can absolutely be before you face the toughest challenge of your entire life.
More mind than body.
Yeah.
More mind than body, David, because when, you think about the fight with Frazier and Ali, and I go back to 71, because that time was the fight of the century at the time. Ali, Angelo Dundee said he told me this, in conversation private. He's gone now, but it's conversation private. He didn't want Ali to take the Frazier fight then. Because he felt like Ali had, come back, but he had fought Quarry, I think Patterson. He fought a couple of guys that was, Bonavina.
No one that was comparable at that point in their career to the monster that Frazier
was.
Yeah.
Everybody, Joe Frazier had chopped down like a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was like, your reflexes a little bit not quite there. You're 3 or 4 years older now, Muhammad. You got to, But Ali said, "I want Joe Frazier." It was the biggest fight. He went, and Ali was always the thing of what the people said, right? So he made the fight. Now, if he waits to okay, now maybe then George, he waits for George to get it. George beats up on Joe. But once Joe had beaten Ali, that's the whole scenario to this thing. Maybe Ali wasn't ready in 71 when they took that fight. A year and a half later, he takes on George fights Joe. Joe had a couple of title defenses, Ron Stand or somebody else. He beats guys at the same time, but contenders, but he beat them. So George steps in, number one contender. George whoops him. But Ali was Joe's mountaintop. That was his mountaintop. You know, George always, and I think I did see it when I made it to Kingston, Jamaica. I'm 18, 17 years of age. I meet Joe Frazier. You know, the guy looked like a boulder to me.
Yeah.
But his whole demeanor was like, this is just another fight. It wasn't, he didn't have that in him like he had with Ali, man. Ali was his mountain. He had climbed the mountain. Losing to George, yeah, he wasn't devastated. I'm telling you, man, got to know him over all. He didn't mind. He didn't want to lose to Ali. That's what he didn't want. He had climbed his mountain. So when you look at this, I think Crawford is Spence's mountain. You know, he's Spence's mountain.
That's a very good way to look at it, for sure.
For him to be recognized in 2020 to 2030 as that fight, or wherever the 10-year period in between, maybe not 30 would be two, whatever the 10-year period is between 2002 to 2010 to 2020, or 12, whatever the period, 10 years. So my math is thrown out sometimes. I'm old, man. I forget sometimes. You know, I
it's all good. No one is listening to this for math.
my daughter always said, Dad, you know, you're getting older now. You said, okay, I can remember. So I blame it on that. But I mean, if he wants to be remembered in that 10-year period of time, he's got to make this fight. By no later than February of next year. That's his Spencer, is his mountain. And if he doesn't take that fight, it's, you know, you had a good career. Maybe you made some few dollars. I don't know. Yeah, you beat a few guys, but you didn't beat the guy that everybody thought was the best. And the same thing with Crawford.
It happened in the 90s and the early 2000s too. Where it's like with all the heavyweights, it's like no matter how many, why didn't you fight this guy? Is so and so good? We don't know if he's good because he never fought this guy. How is so and so good? We don't know. He never fought this guy.
Why didn't Bowe and Lennox Lewis fight each other? That's the fight people wanted to see. They wanted to see Tyson and Lennox. I would like to see Tyson and Lennox Lewis 5 years early, you know, 6 years early, not when Mike Tyson had been to jail, was a drug addict and everything else. You know, that wasn't the same guy. And everybody knew it wasn't the same guy. I want to see Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis fight at that stage of the game. So what happened? Michael Moore steps in, Holyfield, that little rotating thing. But we never got to see those particular, probably the only ones we really did see, I mean, from that standpoint of the younger guys, was Holyfield and Bowe. And I think that's what made those fights so electric.
And those are the ones a lot of people remember too.
Yep, you know? Those are the ones they remember. They don't remember George because George was 45 years old, he knocked out by
George. That was incredible. There's a reason to remember that. Yeah. And he comes from that era, you know, that everybody remembers fondly because once again, everyone fought each other.
I told a guy in 1 year, I seen fights you had. Ron Lyle fought Jimmy Young, fought Jerry Quarry, fought Mac Foster, fought the other kid, Buster Mathis. All these guys were number one, number two contenders. Yeah. All of them was. You know, they were the Ken Norton was in the mix, George, you know, Ali, Fred. They fought each other. And that's how people got to know. That's why nobody knows these guys now, David. It's a simple thing. The math is 1 + 1 is 2, no matter how you look at it. Unless you're from the Beverly Hillbillies and get those, 2 + 2 is 5. But unless you 1 + 1 is 2, right? It doesn't matter. You put one and one, these two guys together, you make a hell of a match. People will remember it. Television, pay-per-view, of course, it's killing the market as well because everybody's not going to pay $75. I think somebody tell me it's $80 to see Alenius and what's the kid name? Wilder in 2 weeks. $80. Now we're looking at a guy just got his ass whooped 3 times in a row. Knocked out.
I mean, against the same guy, but
against the same guy 3 times in a row. And
I'm not complaining about that though, because those were great fights.
Yeah, 80.
But I get your point. I do get your point.
$80. If anything, it's like, I always tell people, I always put fighters like this.
Apparently in England, it's like $20 or something.
Yeah,
for their fights.
But that's what it should be.
Why isn't it that way here?
Yes, that's why. Because that's what it's worth. The English.
They even show commercials during the thing you paid for. So I have to sign up for your website, and then I have to pay you an extra $70, $80, and then I have to hear, and it wouldn't even be so bad, but it's the same commercial every time.
Every
time.
And
I memorize it. The other day, I was so tired of hearing about what kind of fast food item the person thought they were the most like, or something. I'm a chicken sandwich. I feel like a chicken sandwich because I feel like I memorized the thing because I saw it 20 times, man.
And then
over a period of several fights.
Then it's over with. You say, "What I want to eat." Give me a chicken sandwich.
I mean, for all I know, it worked. Yeah, it probably worked the next day, but that doesn't mean I have to like hearing it.
Exactly. So when you start thinking about this, it's like, okay, this fight probably should be on Fox. I'm serious because I think they got a card before that's going to be on Fox. But back in the 80s and 90s, this fight was on CBS or NBC, maybe ABC. It was. Then HBO, of course, HBO came in and started throwing money around like it was free, but they were building up their network. That's why they did exactly just like USA came in and did the same thing. The idea was to get people to watching you. They used boxing. And when they got their audience, once HBO got all those subscribers, 30-something million subscribers, the money they make each month is ridiculous. But once they got that, what happened? They pull out of boxing because there were no more stars. They never create HBO,
which is a shame because they were incredible.
Which is a shame.
Yeah,
they didn't create stars. Yeah, they showed them on television on their network, but they paid them a lot of money. But they didn't create any stars. You didn't get to HBO until you already was pretty much a star. They had a couple of guys that like I don't even think even Oscar didn't come in here like he fought on a couple of Georgia's undercards before he got there. Yeah, but by that time he was the star. They don't just bring, so they'll create, and same with Showtime. They got the Showbox thing, but how many people really pay attention to Showbox? Now people don't know it exists really. But the whole idea is that boxing's fault is like the MMA create stars, like you said, those guys fight each other 3, 4, 5 times. Boxing just will not do that. They won't do that, Dave, and I don't know why. And the only reason I can blame it on the fact that either promoters are afraid or the fighters are afraid. Those, like I said, that same thing I say all the time. One scared and the other glad of it. And that's what's happening right now with these guys right now. I think that Crawford wants this fight because he wants to prove it. Spence don't want it because he's just not sure of himself. Because this shouldn't have taken this long. Like you said, in the last 6 months, this fight has been agreed upon 3 times. And then today I get the thing report again. Well, it's off again. And like I said, the kid said last week,
and nobody was surprised.
Nobody was surprised. Nobody was surprised. So
right, I got to take a leak. So let's end this section here. Do you want to? I've actually still got a good amount of energy. Do you want to go just quickly when I come back over like AJ versus Usyk, Fury versus Wild?
Yeah. I sent you. Did you get the list I sent?
Yeah. I got it. Cool. I actually have it written down right here. So
okay, cool. Yeah. You want to cut off? Or you want to leave it up?
Yeah, let's cut it. Let's cut off for a second. I'm gonna have my wife just make sure the recording went well. Like, God help us if it didn't. but we triple checked everything today. So everything should be good. Yeah. Okay. But I'll see you in like 10 or 20. Sound good?
That'll work. All
right. Cool. See you soon.
Okay. All right. And AJ first, then Canelo, and then let's come back with Wild and finish up because that one probably I could spend 20 minutes talking because the possibility of a forced fight just turns my freaking head.
All right. So which one did you want to do first then?
Let's do Usyk and Joshua first.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And then we'll do Canelo. Yeah, cool. How about that?
All right, because Usyk did even better, I feel like. But I feel like Joshua actually made some decent adjustments, showed that he can think a little bit. It just wasn't enough. And he's done that before. He did that against Ruiz. He came back and he actually beat him after making those adjustments. I may be a little bit biased because before he beat Ruiz, he posted a clip of himself watching my video on Jersey Joe Walcott, and then he changed his style and he came back and he beat him. But I just like you're not gonna outthink Usyk is the problem. I feel like no matter what your game plan is, he's gonna be prepared for anything you could do.
This is my opinion about AJ. Okay, I call him the Ken Nortons of the 2020s. Great body.
I mean, to me, that's a compliment, though. Ken Norton was fantastic.
Great body. Mm-hmm. Give you a pretty good fight. Mm-hmm. But when he gets there with somebody that can punch, he's out of his league. See, and
what do you mean by punch, though?
Well, Cooney 1 round. Of course, he was a little older. They both about the same
you're talking about Norton now.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Norton. That's
okay. Yeah. That makes more sense.
I'm gonna come back to that's what I see with AJ.
Okay.
Actor, model. It reminds me everything of Norton. Mm-hmm. Norton had the WB. They gave him the WBC belt. Okay, he didn't keep it because he lost it. The next time when he defended the title. Yeah, AJ beat Ruiz, who came in the second time. Mm-hmm. Like he had spent all of his time at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend that wasn't a big factor to the fight. It was. But do you disagree that AJ boxed completely differently that second fight than the first fight, though? Like he did change up, is what I'm saying.
You know what he did, and I talked to George. Has spoken to him, a couple of times. They always call him George up to ask him questions, right? Wild dollars. They called him up.
Makes sense.
George says you have to remember. You're the big man in the ring. You're going to be the one. You should be the one to dictate what takes place in that ring.
Yeah.
If you lose that opportunity, if you lose that chance, then the fight becomes even. You can make the fight even. Mm. You can do what you want. You can go out, you can punch this guy out, or you can just box him. Don't let the crowd determine what you're going to do. You have to have it before you go into the ring. Mm-hmm. And I think in that second fight with Ruiz, he said, you know what? On top of watching your videos.
Well, thank you.
Okay. On top of that. But I mean, he had to realize I have to do something different because why? Ruiz is a rotund guy. I'm not going to say fat, rotund. Who has great hands.
Yeah.
And I think
very fast, insanely fast hands.
I think the first fight, his hand speed surprised him. And I remember being in the garden and they said that I told him, man, this is a fight they shouldn't have, I know he had to go through with a fight. Mm. And they actually thought that Ruiz was the easier guy. Because the guys.
Because it's deceptive.
He's Tony Galento. That's what he's the Joe Lewis's Tony Galento.
Yeah, exactly. So but instead of surprising power and accuracy, it's surprising speed. Yeah.
Surprising speed. So he had just fought, I think, a couple of months before that. And they said, well, he took a little time out, so we'll get him. We'll go through with our contract. We go with the fight. And, and Ruiz was prepared for everything that he brought because I heard that Joshua had taken off like 2 weeks out, in between that when the other fighter fell through. So he said, okay, now you got to get yourself back up again. And this guy was given the opportunity of a lifetime to fight for the heavyweight championship, which, he gets it back, which brings us, I guess, to the Usyk fight, right?
Yeah.
Now, the first time, this is what people kept saying. Well, Usyk's moving up. He's a cruiserweight. He's been light heavy, not cruiserweight. He's moved up to heavyweight. I just don't think a cruiserweight.
The way they're talking about Usyk, though, it's like they're talking about him like he's like 5'6".
That's
like,
what I mean.
This guy's like 6'3", maybe 6'4",
Yes. Yeah. He's a big-ass little guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's a big-ass little guy, man.
He's not a scrawny 6'3" or 6'4" either. Yeah.
No, and shoulders are like crazy. Mm-hmm. And he's an excellent boxer. Mm-hmm. Excellent boxer. If you watch this guy, even when he stopped guys, he set them up by boxing them. And as you said, David, he has a brilliant boxing mind. Mm-hmm. And he had made up in his mind. I don't think he had, I'll say this again, some fighters don't have a certain amount of respect. If you watched AJ, Anthony Joshua, but people don't know when we say AJ, But if you watch Anthony Joshua and seen all of his fights, you notice two things about him. He can be hit.
He can be, yeah.
He can be hit. Doesn't have great footwork at all. Well, he showed better in the league, but he doesn't have the greatest footwork. When he fought Klitschko, right, he gets dropped with shots that he didn't see.
A lot of people thought Klitschko was going to have that in the bag before he came back.
Yes, he did. So when you observe him, you figure like, okay, get by the big punch. His boxing IQ is not the best. That's just it. I've seen him. He's a big, huge guy, man. The guy is like a freaking giant. I mean, like I said, I saw him in Vegas. His body, his muscle is amazing.
No, there's a difference between like a guy who's like 6'5", 6'6", and like, just like normal proportions, and a guy where like his hand is as big as your head. And you're like, oh my God.
This guy is huge, man. I'm like, damn, he made George look little, man. And that's saying a lot. And I'm talking about when Jordan was still boxing. He came today, was in Vegas. And the guy is like, this guy is George said, man, he didn't know who he was at first, right? Mm-hmm. He said, I said, that's Anthony Joshua. He's the silver medal, he's the gold medal one in the Olympics. Man, that's a big guy. So,
if Big George looks at you and says, that's a big guy. Yeah.
So what happened was they wanted to get a picture of 3 gold medal winners: Lennox Lewis, George, Usyk. Mm-hmm. And the guy called him over. It was so funny because for the first time, I told George, now you see how I feel when I stand between you and somebody else. That's how I feel. Lennox is up here. Josh was in, George is here. It's like, it was so funny. He said, man, I don't like taking pictures with guys that's bigger than me. I said, well, but that's a picture that they wouldn't have been able to get because George was literally the last Olympic American heavyweight champion. Well, actually the last world because they went to the super heavyweight after that. Because the kid from Russia, from Cuba had won him before. What's his name? Stevenson, Teofilio Stevenson. He had won them in 72, 76. So that they didn't have it then. And Ray Mercer won it, but he won the super heavyweight when he won. There was no super, so it went to that point because fighters didn't want to lose weight anymore, so they went to super. So they wanted to get that gold medal shot. Anyway, so when George seen him, George said, "Well, can he fight?" I said, "Well, I don't know. He's still up and coming." So he kept his eye on this kid, and when that's how he said, "Man, with his size, if he got any kind of mobility and can punch, he'll become heavyweight champion of the world." That's what he said. Mm-hmm. That was kind of funny. And of course, years later, I reminded him who this kid was. But but his biggest problem is, I think that he has times that he gets very unmotivated because he's shooting movies over there. I understand he's on Hugo Boss's, the ads they do for the ads. He's a model for Hugo Boss.
But I don't feel like he was that unmotivated for this fight though. I feel like he felt like he really had something to prove.
For Usyk,
he went, huh?
For the Usyk fight, the first one.
Yeah, for the second one. Oh, you're talking about the first one? Okay, that makes more sense.
I'm more or less talking about the first.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because I think he fell for the hype that a big man beats a little man. Not like you said before.
Yeah, and it's not always. And Usyk isn't that little. He likes you to think he is for sure.
He's a big ass little man. That's the only way I can put it. So, so in the first fight, okay, is it a surprise? Not really to me because I didn't think he could knock him out anyway. I see this kid can move well. Usyk he's a different guy, man. And I'm not so sure. And we're going to get to that. I don't want to jump, but I think that after he beats him, if he and Tyson Fury doesn't fight, I don't know who's kind of left. He said he's going to be at the fight for Wilder and Helenius on the 15th of October, and he's willing to give one of them a shot. I think he beats Wilder, and that's saying a lot for me because I didn't have a lot of confidence. I know in the past we talked about the European heavyweights, and with the exception of Klitschko, I've never had a lot of, even Lennox. I don't see Lennox as a complete European heavyweight because he's not all Europe, you know what I mean? He moved to you.
But the thing about Wilder is I've never seen a fight of his where he doesn't land that right hand.
Yeah.
And like Fury got up, multiple times over a course of 3 fights. But like Fury is he's a not a pretty good. He's a fantastic boxer. It's debatable whether him totally different styles, but it's debatable whether him or Usyk is the better pure boxer out of the two. And I would kind of edge it to Usyk, but once again, different styles. And he got hit. You know, he took that right hand and he withstood it, but can Usyk withstand it?
You mean withstand Wilder's right hand?
Yeah, if he gets knocked down, is he like, because only Fury's gotten up. He's the one, and there's not been one fight of his professional career where Wilder didn't land it. As much shit as people give him, and rightfully so in a lot of ways, about his boxing and his footwork especially. He'll just straight up cross his legs sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of the most awkward, uncoordinated athletes there is out there. Even when he's shadow boxing, it looks like his punches wouldn't have any impact because they're just out of order. It's like watching Ronda Rousey, trying to shadow box. But then he gets in the ring, and all it takes is that one right, and he's never not landed it as much shit as people give him.
But I think this, Usyk has the boxing IQ, and I keep using that word. Sometimes you make a guy throw a punch, his best punch. You know, you can say, make him throw it because he's coming. What do you call it? The bomb squad, right? So he's coming with the bomb squad, right? So what you have to do is you got to make him throw that shot. And now he's taller than Usyk is too. He's like 6'7" himself, so he's a big guy himself. Yeah. So again, Usyk the small guy. Now you're going to find yourself fighting down as opposed to Fury where you're up here. Now you're fighting. Even the other guys he fought were pretty big guys. Dominic Brazil, Gerald Washington, all those guys, even though nowhere near the class of this kid. But the idea is to make him throw that shot. Because what you do is you say, okay, boom, boom. He doesn't do this. Boom. He doesn't do 1, 2. He just comes. Bam. If he does, he'll lay it out here like this. He does some good stuff with pulling down the guard here and there. Yeah. And
he's done that against Southpaws too, but I don't see Usyk falling for that.
No.
It's kind of what you say. He sees that jab coming. I think he's going to bring it all the way around, and he's going to be anticipating that right. That's a very good point.
Coming. It's coming. You make him throw it. So that way and then what happens is you get to the point you're not landing that thing enough rounds. What happens? All of a sudden you feel like, damn, it's not working. Now I got to change up. Now you kind of like in the 7th round, if it goes that far, 8th, 9th round, you got to change up. You out in the middle of the ocean, that paddle done got short. So now you find yourself again, what can I do? I haven't worked on anything else. Maybe they have, I don't know. But I mean, basically you haven't worked on anything else in the gym, right? So now here you are with a guy that's pretty crafty, great footwork, can move and can box. So my thing is, I tell him, you challenge him. Now, how do you fight him? You fight him inside. You don't.
That'll take away the right hand.
Yes,
we've talked about this before. Wilder doesn't need to be an expert boxer. He needs more ways to set up that right hand. Yes. And what Fury's proven time and time again is that he doesn't have another way to set up that right hand.
He doesn't. He doesn't have a left uppercut. If he throw a hook,
right. And he can't backpedal and throw it.
Nope, not at all.
He's completely out of position.
They keep talking about this guy that works with him, used to be with Emmanuel Stewart. I said, but people you all love, there's a reason Emmanuel Stewart is one of the best boxers, trainers in the history of sport of boxing. The man trained like 41 world champions. Yeah. He knew it.
Insane.
It's insane. He knew what he was doing. Now, Sugarfoot or Sugar Hill, Sugar Cane, I forget the guy's name, but anyway, that's the guy that works with him. But, I can't make you in 2 fights or 3 fights. I cannot make you. I can help you condition-wise, but right here, it has to be a thing where, okay, today we're going to work on the jab in the right hand. Okay, the next day we're going to get, you got to bring guys into your camp that you can work on those things with as well. Some guys, they're not, I'll tell you something that you can even look back, if you look back in history, in the sport of boxing, that we don't have today. We don't have professional sparring partners anymore. There were guys at one time they went from camp to camp to camp to camp. learning, sometimes giving out information on other guys, you know, and whether it worked or not, I don't know. But, you know, they realized early on, I'm not going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a journeyman fighter. But you know what? I can go over here and make $1,000 a week working in Ali's camp, $1,000 a week working in Frazier's or Georgia. You don't have that anymore. These guys literally cannot find sparring partners, especially one. There were some guys, I can name 3 or 4 guys in the 70s that fought just like Joe Frazier. They weren't good as Joe Frazier, but they did everything Joe Frazier did. That's why Ali was able to get, you know, throw the shots. That's why George was able to work on his uppercut, right hand. Had guys like Stanford Harris, Shotgun Sheldon, a guy out of California, the Iron, there's another first Iron guy. Anyway, but these guys, what they realized, they were journeymen, but they made their living being sparring partners. They go from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Are you saying that no one is willing to be Wilder's sparring partner, or that those guys just don't exist anymore?
They don't exist.
Really?
They don't exist. When Tony Thornton, what's the kid name from, he's from DC. He was fighting Klitschko, right?
I don't know, man. You know like 10,000 names.
Yeah. And they needed somebody to, no, it wasn't. The kid from Philadelphia. He'll come back to me in a minute. Anyway, he was like about 6'1" or 6'2". He couldn't find anybody tall enough to replicate Klitschko's height. And I went to his manager, who was James Spence at the time. And I said, man, who's he sparring with? Oh, he had a guy that's like 5'11", 6 feet. You know, I'm like, man, what the hell is that going to do? I said, no, man, you need somebody this guy's height, at least to make what his fight's going to be legitimate. You don't want to be training with a guy 6'11" and find yourself against a 6'8" guy. Hey,
you know what it's kind of like? It's like you're a professional basketball player, but the only court you have, like the hoop is like 3 feet lower than it's supposed to be.
Yeah, right.
You know, you get that. You get used to throwing a certain way over time. You
Yes,
just
you
do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And you're dunking over me. You know, that just doesn't. It just doesn't work. You know. So I called this guy up and I said, man, call this guy. This guy was like 6'8", 6'7", 6'8". And he called him up and said, get me to come work with you. And the guy called me and said, how come you pay me? Yeah, of course they pay him, but it's not many of those guys around anymore. We're talking 10 years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago, whenever Klitschko was holding the title for the length of time. That was a problem. There aren't any. That just so when you start looking at guys like Usyk, it's easier to find a guy 6'2" or 6'3" than it is to find a guy that's 6'7".
Yeah.
Or 6'8" to box. Or if you're a 6'7" guy, you try finding a guy that's maybe 6'3", 6'4". Maybe you get to work with him. Maybe. But chances are, if you're a guy like Wilder, who I understand just bombs his sparring partners out, they don't last very long.
Yeah, and no one's going to work with them then.
It doesn't last very long. So now you find yourself doing a bunch of hand pads. All of a sudden, hand pads have become this thing where you're a genius if you can do this. But it's like Bruce Lee said with that bag. Yeah, hand pads don't punch back. You just holding them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happens. So you don't have the guys that's really capable. Even at the lighter weight division, it's the same thing. You just don't have the guys that are capable of giving you. Certain one of those guys, they don't even do a lot of sparring anymore. You watch them, they're working hand pads. That's what they're doing. They're doing 20 rounds on the hand pads a day. And maybe they do 10 rounds, 6, 8, 10 rounds of sparring. They don't do, and a lot of it because they're afraid of, I think that they're afraid of getting hurt as well. But you don't have the talent. And that's what's hurting the heavyweight guys. It's just not enough talent around to give you the work. Now, and they tell me that the European fighters, I'm still starting to hear, I do a lot of conversation with people over in Europe, the gyms are kind of starting to be packed now with the bigger guys that play soccer and, with that thing, that other sport they call, where they kick the heck out of each other, or rugby. Those guys are going, they're going into the box. Yeah, they're going to the boxing gyms now, kind of like we did here with the MMA over the last 15 years. A lot of guys that's wrestling, where'd they go? To MMA. See, and that's how you develop. So they're developing their programs there because now they think for so many years, when you look at it, if you say, I want to be heavyweight champion of the world, right? When you're in London or someplace, and, you got your guys like Henry Cooper, George Chuvalo, I'm saying the UK, but guys from over there, and they're coming up against guys like Liston, Foreman, Ali, Frazier, you like, hell, I'm never going to be heavyweight champion of the world, you know. And then all of a sudden, a guy like Klitschko comes along. You know, he and his brother, both Klitschko's, they win the title. Then AJ wins the title. Then Tyson Fury wins the title. You know, now you feel a certain way. It's the same way in Moscow when guys like Golovkin and all the same way using the brothers again, people start thinking, hey, I can be world champion. And that's what's happened now. I think we've lost that spirit in the United States. So there's a reason that European champions are doing it. People just have more confidence in it now. And I think the difference is going to be, again, if Usyk should fight Wilder, there's going to be a lack of proper sparring, guys to work with.
And it's hard to find someone who boxes like Usyk anyways. You're not going to find at the best of times, you know.
You're not going to find one. He kind of has, he reminds me, and people, please, I don't mean he's as great as Ali. I'm not going that way. What I'm saying is, like Ali started out as a middleweight, went to light heavyweight. He had the speed of those middleweights. He never lost that speed till he got older. That's what made him a gear faster than most of those heavyweights. His punch was coming like, like this. And God, man, what the hell is this guy coming with these punches? You know, he wasn't the biggest guy, but he had such speed. And that's what Usyk, I think, has now. He has the speed of those guys, of those cruiserweights and light heavyweights. And these guys here now are just coming with these bumps. And I think Wilder might be a little slower. And that, now first he has to get by Helenius. So, you know, that, which most people don't seem to think that's going to be a problem. But assuming he gets by Robert Helenius, which if he doesn't, then he needs to quit anyway. But if he does, then Usyk has said, I'm going to give him a shot at the title. So, which he now,
but what makes Usyk so dangerous too is that AJ had a decent game plan with, like, when Usyk is turning inside like that, you know, he's moving to his left. He was setting up a really nice right body shot.
Yes,
and then pairing that with the cross and, you know, move the hand. But then Usyk, after a couple rounds, he really didn't like those body shots. You know, AJ is huge and that's got to hurt really bad. He just starts, he's like, okay, I'll just do the natural southpaw thing that most southpaws do. He just started putting his foot outside and turning outside. And that's all it took. There was no adjustment back to that. It was just like, okay, now all the threats are gone for the most part.
See, that's what now, I'm glad you brought that up because that's where the training part comes in. You get a good trainer. Robert Garcia, I think, was his trainer, right? They brought him in. I can train you to do something different in the fight.
But you can't train me to change and to be a thinker and change mid-fight. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Then when you got a guy that's in front of you changes and does something different, oh, hell, we didn't train for that. You know, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying I see this guy not letting Wilder, not to say Wilder won't land it right here, but he may land it with him a couple of times. I don't think he's going to land it from a 3-foot distance where he'll be like he hit Tyson Fury with it.
Yeah.
You know, he brought that thing from Alabama to California when he was that thing, man. Damn. You know, I was surprised. I mean, anything other than that last round, maybe Tyson doesn't get hit with that shot. You know, because it was a desperation shot. So he was like, damn. And then he hit it with 2 shots, you know, bam, bam. And he goes down.
Wilder's always dangerous. I think he has a knockout in the 12th too. I can't remember against who.
Okay, he probably does. Because I think Fury's the only one that's gone any distance with him, I think, right? Ortiz he stopped him, I think, in the first fight. Maybe it was the second fight. Maybe stopped him in the 11th or 12th round.
Maybe.
I can't remember, but I know it was a later stoppage. But then at the same time, Ortiz that's another problem. Talking about the southpaw. Ortiz had him on the hook there for a minute. You know, if you remember that fight, referee stopped, you know, referee steps and breaks it up, gives him 88 seconds, you know, and all right, you okay? Yeah, I'm right. You all right, champ? Yeah, okay, I'm right. Okay, you ready? Okay. Yeah, okay, now to come back.
Are you sure? Do you want a back rub?
Yeah. But I don't think he's going to have those opportunities now. I've only seen Helenius other than on YouTube. I've only seen him box one time on television live. I think it was on one of the Zone shows or somewhere. So I don't know a lot about him. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I've seen his style. I don't think he has enough to beat Wilder. If he gets to a puncher style, it's not going to happen anyway. So I think Wilder can outpunch him. But again, we got that same thing. The confidence in the European fight is not what it was. Man, when you look at it, we got a lot of guys smoke there now. Middleweights, you got Conor Ben, the other, the one that just stopped that fight between him and Nigel Ben's son and the other kid that fight went through. But you got quite a few guys that from over that part of the world now with the confidence to think that, and a lot of them are coming here, getting the training now. On top of that, but I think Usyk beats Wilder in a boxing match, and only because of what he did to AJ. He can fight big men. He knows how to fight big men. I see that. But with AJ, I thought the first half of the fight, AJ was winning, close to winning, an even fight. Like you said, the body shots were a run.
Yeah.
But he got away from that. And then I think because he got caught with a shot. See, you can train David.
Yeah, he got caught. I think that I haven't seen it since when it aired, but I think in the 7th or 8th or something.
7th, 8th round, he got caught with a shot. That's what that's the difference. I mean, that's the difference. What can change a fighter who's been successful is that he's been knocked out before, and he knows what that feeling feels like. It's like, well, damn, I don't want that to happen anymore. And like I say, I can change you to adapt to what you're supposed to do. But when this guy over here changes all of a sudden, we got a problem going on. You go back to your corner, and he's telling you, you got to do this. You got to, man, no. Hell, he just caught me with a shot. He done figured that out. And the rest of the fight, it was just like it was, Usyk was just picking, like picking berries. I got it. Pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
He wasn't being aggressive anymore. He let that fight get away from him. At least that's in my opinion, But
no, I think he could have had that fight with just a couple minor adjustments. But like you said, the trainer his coach wasn't telling him to make those adjustments, and he wasn't figuring out how to make the adjustments himself. Even though he took away so much of Usyk's game plan, because Usyk loves that inside angle, he's I'm just as good on the outside. And I remember I even tweeted out, I'm like, did they not give him a counter to when he moved outside? And I saw it like once or twice. He did do a counter, but it must have been by accident because it hit Usyk clean, and then he never did it again. Yeah,
never did it again. It's like Emmanuel Stewart always said: a big man, you have to fight big, and if you don't do that, and AJ was fighting big early in that fight, but because he wasn't afraid throwing the shots that need to be done. But the second half of that fight, I think he just I don't know whether it's conditioning. Maybe he got to a point he felt like I can't do the same way. I'm afraid of getting tired. I don't want to get knocked out. But something in him, his heart, again, it's the mind over the body sometimes. And, and people were saying that, well, a champion wins the decision. No, that's not necessarily true. I think if he finishes that fight, if he wins 2 of those last 4 rounds, rather than giving away 3 of the last 4 rounds, I think he wins that fight, at least in my opinion, because the scores were pretty, it was a narrow decision. But I think Usyk took the fight. That's what he did. When AJ had
you have to make that decision of if you want to go for broke.
Yes, you do.
Do you want to really try to knock this guy out, but you risk getting knocked out yourself? And
I use and you can always go back in history, and you can see certain fighters. But I tell people, and it's still, I don't care who it is, what it is, I have to look at the first Hearns and Leonard fight. Leonard was losing that fight, had lost that fight on every judge's round, court, but he knew. Angelo Dundee told him, "You're blowing it, kid. You got to go back. You got to go take this fight." Well, by this time, Leonard's eye was half shut, So, but he says, "I got to go get it." That again,
not only did he go in there, he didn't do the same thing either.
No, he didn't do the same thing.
Now I'm really gonna outbox him with my one eye. He's like, I'm gonna. He it's like his whole style changed. He's sunk low. He's just like huge overhands, huge hooks, huge uppercuts. Different fighter.
He became everything Tommy Hearns was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Tommy Hearns spent that time. Man, he did a tremendous job boxing. Nobody couldn't believe that. But then I went, "No, this ain't working." So he said, "Okay, now I'm going to become the fighter." And that's what he did. And then by the time he caught with the shots and, it was over with. So, again, but there's something that these guys have to have in them, David, I don't see it in anybody. The only fighter probably that's come close to that I see, and and we're going to segue into that, is Canelo.
Yeah.
It's Canelo. You know, now, Bevo, I still can't figure that one out to this day. I think he just fought a fighter that he just could not beat. He probably won't beat him in a rematch either. But Canelo,
I know people have been asking me to break that one down forever. So my take on it, just real quick, is that Canelo has these really slick sequences that can work for up to about 6 punches. But on that last punch, Canelo usually pivots away. Sometimes he'll do the head turn thing. That's crazy, where he would have gotten hit if he didn't turn his head, you know. But he always pivots out of position and out of balance. It's never mattered before in his entire career, except against Triple G a couple times. It's never mattered before because the guy already punched himself out in those 3 to, you know, if you're throwing and you're missing 6 punches, that's really discouraging. And the last ones, you're usually going to be off balance because you're ticked off. You put that, and then Canelo's gone. It doesn't matter that Canelo is out of position, that he has his feet all out of joint and his balance is off. But I always forget, is it Bevel or Bivel? Bivel? No,
right.
Okay, no disrespect to him. I just
is it
forgot.
Tomatoes or tomato? I mean, there you go.
All right. Well, Bivel kept his balance and threw these short little shots. He's the bigger man. He doesn't need to throw his hardest. And he followed Canelo through that whole flashy sequence. And at the end of it, he was still there with a jab and a straight. And that's my opinion on what happened.
And somebody figured that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you can watch these guys from every angle nowadays.
Canelo,
whenever you want.
Canelo had a habit of turning it on at certain times when he had to. What's the kid name? Caleb Plant. Same way with him. Everybody goes, oh, I thought Plant was no. Hell, it wasn't until Canelo decided to turn it up a little bit on him. He couldn't do it against Triple G, mainly because they've done how many rounds together? That was 36, 12, 24. They were 24 rounds and now 36 rounds together. You're in the ring with this guy. You kind of know each other by now. So, but I think with Triple G, I seen people saying that Triple G aged, but I think I seen the turning point for Canelo too. And
do you buy that it's just his hand? Because he said he's had his hand hurt for a couple of fights now, his left hand. Or because to me it looked like his reflexes were a little bit dulled.
That's what I'm saying. People want to say that, but you know, MMA and boxing are pain games. You know what I mean? That's what they are. That's what they are. It's all about pain.
It is.
You either inflicting it up on the other guy.
It's a negotiation. How much are you willing to take, and and what am I willing to take in return for what you're willing to take?
I remember, and this was early on. Dick Sadler told my brother one time, he was young still, just turning pro, had about a few fights. He said, "Man, I hurt my finger. My finger hurts." Dick said, "Man, your nuts gonna be hurting before you get finished in this game here." That's the whole lot. It's a pain game. So Canelo for him, and I don't listen. Okay, I hurt my hand in the 3rd round. I couldn't punch anymore, right? Then okay, I couldn't punch as effective as I want to, but you don't stop punching. See, that's the difference. He didn't stop punching. Maybe his hand was hurting him, but don't say the reason I didn't get this guy out of here is because my hand was hurting. You
have another hand, and you can still use this hand.
You can still use. One of the fights the other night, the fighter hurt his hand, and you knew that it hurt it. But he spent the last fight. I can't think what it was. He spent the last fight, and basically jabs, hooks, and uppercuts, left hand, right? I mean, you could tell it because he didn't. After the 6th round, he didn't throw the punch anymore. And I said, he didn't hurt his hand. And sure enough, he said, "Well, I hurt my hand when they're talking to him."
What fight was that? There was some fight, I think, within the last 10 years where a guy hurt his hand and then just destroyed the other guy one-handed. And I can't remember what it is.
I can't either, but because I've seen a couple like that. But I don't want a great guy. I just think Canelo, he's only 32, 33 years of age. But his body right now has some mileage, man. Yes, yeah. It has to be as old as Golovkin. And I'm thinking now that, he doesn't want to go out on that canvas by fighting guys like Benavidez, Charlo, which I still believe if he took the time, I think he's fought. I hate to say this because people say don't fight enough, but he's the one guy that fights 3 times a year, and probably would do a 4th time if he could. I think at this stage right now, he needs to slow it down to 1 or 2 fights a year. Let your body heal. Your body.
No, that's fine.
Heal.
Canelo has nothing to prove.
Nothing
regardless.
to prove
even if he wants to retire right now, fine. You know, fair enough.
But if you're going to get in there with these young, the Benavidez, Charlo, not that
way above your weight class, and you're getting older. Yeah, then you need to take your time. Yeah.
Take your time. And now you start letting them. But the difference, and he said this himself, let them fight each other, and I'll fight the winner. But then if Andre don't want to fight Benavidez, well, they don't want to fight Andre one. Nobody, because why? There's no big paydays in them fighting each other. Canelo is that retirement money. That's the pension fan right there. It's Canelo,
which is fair enough. They can go
fair enough, and I get it.
Yeah.
But you have to create yourself at the same time. Canelo offered Charlo a few years back $8 million. They turned it down. Well, you just knock yourself down or two. You're like, okay, fine. Then you're not going to get the fight anymore. Now maybe they say
and you probably never will at this point.
And you're never going to get it. Now you got, so now they're going to need to battle it out, because if he retires, they're going to battle it out anyway.
Meanwhile, Canelo took on Mayweather. Got regardless of what he says, he got pretty badly embarrassed, but he grew better and learned from it. And now everyone like no one holds it against Canelo. No one's sane holds it against Canelo that he lost to Mayweather at that age. They look at what he's done since then,
And he beaten everybody with the exception of the draw and Bevo.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is that when you start putting that type of mileage on your body, 10 straight, we're talking about 9 years since he and Mayweather fought, I think it was. So
something like that, yeah.
You've been fighting 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 times a year other than COVID. But the fact that you put that much mileage, now you're 32 or 33 years of age, you've held the titles, he's made a bunch of money. That's the fact, he's made a bunch of money. And a lot of guys have made money fighting him. So, okay, if he said, okay, I'm going to sit back, maybe I want to give up my titles. I want them to fight for the title. And what I'll do come next Cinco de Mayo or September, whatever the next year, I'll fight who's ever left standing.
No, yeah, use Sugar Ray Leonard as a blueprint for all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's that. And that's what but again, is it the promoter or is it the fighter? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Is it, these guys get on you talk about the Instagram stuff they do. Yeah, there's one thing to talk shit on the Instagram, but another thing that stands, face to face. They go to the guy's press conferences and they disrupt the press conference. Oh, I want to fight you. And he says, okay, well, you fight him. You told him. He said, you fight him, you two guys fight each other, and I'll fight the winner. And they look at each other, and the difference is, I might get $1 million. I might get my butt whooped. Then I might pitch it. Now I think I'll fight this guy over here, for the $1 million or somebody else, because I want to stay in the picture. The zero, again, those O's, that 49 and 0 or 32 and 0, whatever, means more to them than a legacy at this point, Dave. At least that's how I'm not.
Do we both agree though about Triple G that it's probably time at this point for retirement?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I actually thought
he wants another fight.
Yeah. Well, they're saying the WBC just mandated him and Laura to fight for the middleweight title. So,
but like, here's the thing, Matt, is like I've never seen a fighter just in a couple fights age that much. Without getting knocked out really, really bad a couple times.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And he seemed way more concerned about getting tired and during the end rounds than he did about anything else. Those first 6 rounds, I think he was just really, really waiting for Canelo's power to empty out. And then I was like wondering if this was the game plan. I'm like, is he going to try to make Canelo tired and then surge forward in the later rounds? And he did for, I think, like the 7th or the 8th. He took a punch from Canelo, and then there was this look on his face like, okay, I could handle that. Yeah. And then for a couple of rounds, he really took it to Canelo, but then he couldn't even maintain it for half a fight.
Nope. The last part of that, the last 3 rounds of that fight, as far as I'm concerned, he was just trying to survive, like you said.
Yeah.
And I told the guy this after he beat what was the last fight he had back in April or May, I think it was, when he won that fight. I said, if I'm him, I let the draw with Canelo hang over boxing and Canelo's head. I retire, I walk away and just let it hang over, because people are still saying to this day he deserved to get the victory.
Yeah.
Right? So I let that hang over his head, and now,
especially since it's been 4 years, like what's the point?
4 years. That's the point. So when Canelo retires, people would say Canelo never gave the lock-in a rematch. See, that's the play, and you can make a career almost off of that already. I'm sure he's made a lot of money because he's had some great fights and great paydays as well. So, when it gets to the point, boxers have always been glory seekers. That's why you get in this game.
The good ones. Money. Yeah.
Yes, the good ones. You're a glory seeker. And that's why I said, in looking at Canelo, he's done everything that he needs. If you said, if he retired today, he's a Hall of Fame boxer. Easily. No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, that you can say that just about any of them nowadays, because I don't know what the Hall of Fame is about anyway. But but he definitely is one based on, like you said, 23 years old, he fights some Mayweather. He didn't have to take that fight. There was because no, for what? But okay, I took it on because he thought I think in his mind he really thought he could stop that Mayweather train. And Mayweather, to be honest with you, was afraid of that young boy. He was afraid of him because he didn't want to lose to him at all. But he figured at that time that Canelo was the biggest payday that was in front of him. And he had already cherry picked with enough fighters that he didn't fight. So he takes on this young kid now. And Canelo, well, what happens? He goes out against McGregor and a couple other guys. But now Canelo picks it up and goes out. And for the last 9 or 10 years, he's basically been the big face of boxing. Yeah. He's done a great job. But I would much rather see him walk away than to see a guy at, like a Charlo or Benavidez or Dennis Andre wound up stopping him, or him having to quit because he suffers an injury in the ring that he probably, if it's his hand, it's never going to go away anyway.
I feel like he wants to go even further. I think he wants to go up I think it's the mentality he has. I think he has that Roberto Duran mentality where he wants all the glory and he wants it to last forever. And I'm not saying this is a negative. But look at Duran fought until he was like almost 50?
50. No, he was like 57 years old.
Okay, 57 or whatever. And then he took a title, like a ABC belt, but he took a title in his 45 to 50 something or another. And at that point, you just really, really love doing it. It's I mean, I know Duran had money issues,
he had 113 fights, I think. 113 fights.
But you could tell, just some people you could see the fighter in the ring, and some people you're like, okay, they're cold, they're calculating. I don't know if they're actually enjoying this, and some are honest about it. Like George St. Pierre in MMA is like, no, I hate fighting. I was terrified every time. but some of them, like you look at Canelo, and he's looking for that angle. It's like, man, this guy loves knocking people out. It's like his favorite thing.
Yeah, that's his thing. He does. He enjoys it.
So I don't see him stopping until he's forced to stop by either his family or by reality.
Well, I think it's going to be reality, because as long as sometimes family, as long as you're cashing them big checks, family say go get some more. So you pretty much have to have it. And let's face it, if the money he's making, if he's living in Mexico, he's living like a king.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not that he probably needs the money, but as you said before, when you stop, it's like they said, old generals never retire. They go looking for another war, and he's going to because Duran was even thinking about 60 at one time trying to get a fight. Certain guys that just don't go. And I remember my brother telling me one time, he said, George told me, he said, man, it's not the fights that bother me. He says the training that you have to put your body through. That he said, that's the part. You got to train 8, 12 weeks, and then you got to get in the ring and go. He said, no, he said, the training, man, he said, the sparring part is what make it rough. He said, but you have to do that to get to that, to stay at that level. So I think when it gets to a point when we start reading about Canelo not training, because they say he trains ridiculous now. So if we don't start hearing those stories that he's not coming to the gym but 2 or 3 times a week, then you're going to just about know in your mind that he's ready to walk away. But until he's convinced in his mind, I don't think. I think we may see him fight for another 5. I said he'd be about 40 years old before he quit. I always thought that with him because of what you just said. He likes being King Canelo, and that's what he is. And honestly, with you, maybe if you look at it, if he can manage to dodge those guys and let them fight and beat each other out the way, maybe he lasts another 3 to 5 years, 35, 36 years of age, and then he quits. But that's again, greatness tends to be defeated. And I tell people this all the time. Age has won all the time.
Yeah, age is undefeated. Yeah.
Is undefeated. And so that's what you got to look at. That's what you got to look at.
No,
which takes us into Wilder and Fury. Now,
nice segue, Roy. I gotta applaud you for that one.
Talk about being defeated. Now, there's a talk that maybe Wilder and Fury fights again, right?
I don't want to see that. I don't think that many people want to see that.
I didn't want to see a third fight. The guy got kicked his butt so bad. Okay, I wore this iron mask suit into the ring. I was tired before I got in. Oh, he did this, I did. All right. We're going to give you a third ass whooping. But this time we're going to give you a thorough ass whooping. And then that way, there'll be no decision. Who's going to want to see that fight, as you said before? How does he, the only way he gets another shot at Fury, and this has happened in the past. You've got the clear way of AJ, Usyk, they said Char, Joyce, who else? Well, that's probably your top.
He's not coming on a comeback tour. He's just not gonna do that.
He's not gonna do it. So the only way, and any memories, okay, boys, you see Wilder against Ortiz was a good fight. Yeah. You see Wilder against Gerald Washington. Oh yeah, good fight. Did you see Wilder against Fury? Yeah, man, I see. Each time, each time, right? The first fight.
There's such 3 different fights too that is kind of perfect. Neither like as far as trilogies go. It would have been more exciting if Wilder had won one of those trilogies. It would have been, yeah. But besides that, I have no complaints. There are 3 completely different fights, fighting 3 completely different ways.
I told in the second fight, we talked about this in the second fight. I know we did because I said to myself, I said it then. The first time he gave Wilder too much respect. The second fight, he took it to him, and he found out that Wilder, as you said, what's coming. The right hand is coming. And he stayed in his chest. And Wilder could never, he dropped him, but he never could get that shot enough times to land that shot from here again, to get it. He stayed right in his face.
We mentioned Riddick Bowe before. Riddick Bowe had a great overhand right, but he had that uppercut to pair with
uppercut.
Yeah.
And Wilder and Fury beat him up. In the third fight, the same thing. He beat him up. There's no doubt. There's no reason for a fourth fight. Draw, win. Draw, win, lose. Okay, 3 fights. This fourth fight got to be because we got to settle. It's been settled. Fury right now, to me, is the best fighter in the last 12 years of heavyweight division of boxing in the last 12 years. I can't think of anybody else. I don't think I was on my way with AJ at one time, but he proved me wrong. And now, can Usyk be that fighter for the next 8 or 10 years to last that long with the heavyweight title and become that next generational guy? I don't know. But Fury has shown that he's been that guy. Wilder, for about 7 to 8 years, he had a bunch of title defenses, 10 or 12 title defenses, I think. But look at the guys. The only guy that was really considered to me a top prop was Ortiz. And Ortiz was like 67 years old.
What sucks about Fury fighting Wilder 3 different ways too is you have 3 different blueprints for how to beat him. You know that if you get super one is just evade his right hand, which Fury didn't avoid the first fight. But the second way, besides outboxing him, is just move forward because he can't punch moving back. And then the third time, that's right. The third time he just wrestled him until he got tired. you know,
at 277 pounds.
Yeah, but I don't think. Here's the thing: is I don't think it'll take 277 pounds. I think it'll. I could see someone like Usyk out wrestling Wilder, and he's still tired in the eighth. You know,
the guy's legs are about big as a pencil.
So I didn't want to do him like that, but
but you're right. That lets you know that his road work is not. There's no definition to him. He's like a basketball player. You know, he got upper body.
He's got that kind of body for sure.
Yeah, but there's no definition to his legs. He doesn't like the. Tommy Hearns had the same thing. And Emmanuel Stewart said if Tommy Hearns would have liked doing road work, and I said this on that when we broke down Hearns and Hagler back in a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. If Tommy Hearns would have did his road work, he said that guy could have been the best fighter of his generation. He just didn't like running. 2 or 3 miles was good enough for him. He didn't want to run the 5 miles, the 10 miles. The other guys go out. He said, I'm already champion. So he do 3 miles. I'm going to knock this guy out. See, he didn't want to do that. So as I look at Wilder, and I know guys that's been down there with him, and I know that Breland was his trainer for a number of years, and Mark's biggest thing was, I can't get this guy to work harder than he does. That was his question. And it's kind of like they've always forgotten the fact that Mark Breland saved him in the first fight. And in the third fight, he almost got killed, you know? So that's gone. Everybody's forgotten that because it makes it look like, well, Breland knew what he was talking about, what he was doing when he stopped the fight. Because that was on his way to doing it. You know, at least I want to go out on my shield. Well, damn, you had a chance to go out on a shield, not a shield, but a stretcher. You know, so, and that's what.
Yeah, if your coach says it's time to stop, you know, if your corner says it's time to stop, it's time to stop.
I looked at the fight between Felix Trinidad and Bernard Hopkins the other day, and I remember that fight. I was there for one thing, but I appreciated the fact that his dad, when Felix got up. And Smoger, like again, Steve Smoger was the referee in that fight. And I said, Steve Smoger never seen a fight that he didn't want to let go, no matter how bad the fighter was getting beat. But Trinidad gets up and looked like he was pretty clear-headed. But his dad knew at this moment, I'm not going to let my son get killed because Bernard's was going to go in and finish him for sure. And you've already moved up 13 pounds from 147 to 160 to fight this guy. Bernard probably came in 65. He didn't get overweight holler that much, but 65 or 60, you know, he was 5 pounds heavier eating. So you're basically giving away 15 to 20 pounds, and these shots hurt. You said, I'm not going to let my son get hurt.
That is, you know, if you lose to him, at least you lose to a great boxer. It's not like you lost to some no one. You know, they just picked off the street.
No one.
Yeah.
So at this point in the game, if I'm Tyson Fury, I don't, you know, it's an easy fight. What am I proving to fight Wilder again? No. If I'm Tyson Fury, I'm not proving anything.
He needs to fight AJ or Usyk. That's what needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So, but he looked like they're talking about chalk. I'm like, okay, what did that pop up in? You know, but you got Dubois, was Joyce back there, right? That's the other heavyweight kid over in London, but he's not ready. But he'll probably get his shot. It'll be a thing of the numbers of eliminating numbers. He's 3-2-1. You know what I mean? You got to have somebody. You got to have a guy, so let him get. That's why I say Usyk. And what I'd like to see, Usyk and Fury first. That would be the fight I want to see.
Oh, yeah. That's the one I want to see the most, too.
Yeah, it may not happen, but if he fights Usyk, and I think Tyson Fury may have a problem with Usyk because he's about the most clear. Tyson Fury, I don't think he's that great of a boxer.
Really?
But he knows how to maneuver in a ring. You know, when I
would say he's a fantastic outside boxer. Like outside. Jab and mover. Yeah.
Jab and move. Yeah, because he knows how to move in the ring.
Yeah.
And he, of course, he's going to have the reach advantage at 6'9". But then that could be a disadvantage against a guy like Usyk. And I don't think he wants to lose to him.
I don't see him being able to bully, even though he's shorter. I don't see it than Wilder was. I don't see him being able to bully and move Usyk around without taking some really hard body shots.
Really hard shots.
That would be the difference for me.
Yes, to the body. Usyk's gonna work his body. Nobody has worked Fury's body. Nobody. You know, so I see him doing that. So, and I think again, we talk about those mountains, every period there's a mountain that a fighter wants to climb. Fury has to be Usyk's mountain.
Oh,
not
yeah,
AJ.
For sure he is. Yeah.
Yeah, not AJ, because he's shown he can beat AJ. Not Wilder, who's been beaten 3 times by this guy. If Usyk was to retire today, they would say, well, you never fought Fury. You know what I mean? Fury retired, they're gonna say, well, he never fought Usyk because he was there too. Why you never take that fight? So you need those mountains sometimes, David. You gotta you stick your foot into the rock and you start climbing, you push hard. I want to see that. I think like Spence, like Crawford, like perhaps take Davis or whether it be Shakur, whether it be Lomachenko, Lopez, Garcia, one of those guys. The guy that's on top is going to have to be the one that everybody's trying to get to that mountain. Yeah. And right now in the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury is that mountain. I think Usyk in his mind, he thinks I can beat this guy. Let's face it. He jumped in there and nobody thought he was going to beat AJ. Nobody thought he was going to do that.
It's gonna be Fury's so much harder though, because Usyk is all about timing. Usyk has some of the best timing ever, but so is Fury. I could see, and usually, I will usually never predict a fight because it's a fight. Anything can happen,
anything can happen.
But I could usually have an idea of what factors are going to be in play. But the thing with Fury is that he could box so many different ways. He doesn't even necessarily need to use his height. He could use his reach. He doesn't need to use his weight. He could use his craftiness. You don't know what the hell the guy's going to do.
But he does a lot of stuff off balance, man. That's the funny thing about
it doesn't look like he could hit you, but he can hit you and it can still hurt.
I mean, you remember Prince Ahmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asim, he's one of those guys. The guy, I don't know if you ever watched him. He was in Atlantic City and he was getting ready to fight Kevin Kelly, right? And the guy came and, we waited on him to come in and do our press stuff with him. This guy he runs into the gym. I'm telling you what he does. He grabs the rope, he jumps rope. Bing, 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 boom. Drops the rope, go to the heavy bag. Hits the heavy bag. Bing, bing, bing. Goes to the speed bag. Goes back to the rope again. Jumps in, does the same thing again. About 6 times. 6 times. Now, by this time, I'm tired of just watching it.
like a hummingbird.
But what they were doing, the other guys were getting ready. The sparring partners, right? When he gets into the ring, he does the same awkward stuff that he does in the ring. He's punching, running away, turning his back, moving out. This guy was what you seen him, everything he did in the gym, he did in the ring. I've never been in the gym to watch Tyson Fury, in the length of time, so I don't know if that's what he does. But there's no way you can do what he does just by doing it in the
no, you can't make this shit up on the spot.
You can't make it up on the spot. That's what makes it so difficult like that. I tell people that, when you get a guy that you fight, it's like fighting a crazy man. When, there's always this kid in school that he was just crazy. He couldn't fight at all, David, but he was crazy.
Yeah, you do not to mess with that kid. Yeah, that kid, his parents are kind of messed up. He always smells kind of funny. and he's not the biggest kid, but he's insane. And don't mess with that kid. Yeah,
you can kick his butt every time.
He tried to strangle a kid with a phone cord. Just stay away from this guy.
And every time you see him, you got to fight him. Because he's like, man, I just beat you up yesterday. You do it again. And everybody goes, oh, man. They go, oh, you just beat him. That's just the way it is. And some kid, and Tyson Fury to me is that kid.
Yeah.
You got to fight him every time. But you know what? If you don't beat him, it's the same on you. Because every time you want to climb, that's Fury. That's Wilder's biggest problem. He could not beat him. And he found out that boy got laid out. He was laid out. And got up.
Yeah.
And then damn, they got Wilder in the round again. See, ain't nobody, that's the sign of a crazy man. Anybody else would have ran, David, anybody else Ali would have run for the last 12.
That's like a religious faith in yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is it you have the amount of faith that's normally reserved for a deity? You were like, I can't fall. I will rise from the dead, and I'm gonna win this one too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what he did. It was like he rose from the phoenix. The kid was everybody. It's so funny because Wilder like, yeah, I done it. He turned around like, well, I'll be damned. This guy's up again, man. And just as crazy, that's that crazy kid.
Like a horror movie, yeah.
Right. Jason all over again. I got, it's I love this time of the year. It's Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the Dracula movies. I love the Jason. I love those. My wife, she tells me she would not watch them. Even with me, she won't watch it. But I love the horror movies. This kid that's Dracula. Tyson Dracula has risen from the grave. That's what he did. So I just wish he had more talent out here to challenge him. And I just don't see it. Usyk maybe I don't know if AJ ever would have been a challenge for him. I don't know. But if he fights him, we'll see. But then maybe Usyk is. But I just wish he had more.
Mean, if there's one good thing to come out of the YouTube boxing thing, the YouTube boxers, maybe it'll inspire those guys that watch him. That group of they're kids now, 10 to 16 years old. But maybe they're seeing like, whatever the name of the guy is, like P9X570 or
KS1 and all that
whatever. Yeah, maybe they see that guy and they just they're like, I want to be like that, and they step in the boxing gym. We can help.
That's what it's going to take. But I've always said this thing about kids, and they come to the. I've trained enough kids when I was working with amateurs, and the kid, mother said, I bring my son, I want him to be a boxer, or I want to get his courage up, right? I want him to encourage himself by being more self-confidence and things. And they bring him into the gym, and the kid walks in there in a $200 Nike suit, and a $250 pair of sneakers. I said to myself, baby, you can forget that. That ain't happening. But you got one that came in there, some short pants and some drag sneakers, and said, I want to try boxing. You're going to work with that kid because you know why? He knows what a hard time is. Kid comes in, you can forget it. I don't see that right now in any of America's gyms, David. What you're saying, I don't see it in any of America's gyms. And that's because gyms are closing up more and more every day. You can't, the amateur, they're talking about kicking boxing out of the Olympics now. That, can you imagine the heartbreak? But I do, matter of fact, I'm going to call John Brown sometime next week. I've been saying that for a while.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's broken. Let's not try to fix it. Let's throw it all away.
They've been trying to get those groups out with the guys. The guy wanted Golden Glove leaders at the Shakur Stevenson fight. And they're trying to get guys like George, Ray Leonard, Holyfield, a lot of the gold medal winners, participants, to write letters to say what their life might have been like had they not had a chance to go to the Olympics and become world champion. That's what, because how can you just kick Olympics out of boxing? At one time, that was track and field, of course, in the last 30 years, has been track and field. But prior to that, boxing is what made people used to watch. They watched the boxing.
Have George talk about it on his channel. I saw it. I was surprised I saw a YouTube video from George a while ago. And I was like, I didn't even know he had one. And then I think it got like hundreds of thousands of views. And he doesn't promote that thing. That's his first video in years, right?
That's right. He doesn't promote it. Well, now because of the move, we're going to start doing a little bit more. I'm thinking that maybe one thing, and maybe we can find us some good boxing movies.
Dude, let's talk about the movie, and let's finish up with that. Okay, because this is interesting. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe we can, come up with an idea. What's a good boxing movie? Who's had the best boxing story? The thing about this movie with George is it's his life, but it's more or less his life shown through the Christian values of his life. That's why it's called. Well, I think they call it. I'll send you the thing. I think it's called The Heart of a Lion.
Okay,
is the name of it. But it's based off of the book God Is in My Corner. Because George, this thing, that's my brother. And I'm like, where did he get this knowledge? Or who wrote the books? George's done about 6 or 7 books. I didn't realize that myself. But I know he's done a children's book and everything else. So he spends a lot of his time doing the things I think that using his knowledge as a kid growing up, the troubles and stuff that he was in. And that's what this movie is a lot about. It's the when we were kids growing up, you know, going to the Olympics, realizing for the first time as a child, and that when you said something, it kind of it grabbed a thought in my head about a young kid seeing somebody on television or whatever they saw me and saying, I want to be like that. You know, that's what he's seen one day on the Olympics. I mean, watching television, Johnny Unitas and Jim Brown comes on and say, hey, man, join the Job Corps. That way you can get a second chance at life, get a GED, go in and learn a trade. You can become something. Well, at that point of his life, he's like, man, where's my first chance been? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need a chance before you could get a second chance.
Yeah, before you get a second chance. So where's my first chance be? But he was basically a thug in the streets, causing havoc in the neighborhoods, you know, and it became a thing that if you don't leave and do something, man, you're going to die in these streets or you're going to be spending the next 30, 40 years in prison. But back then, to be honest with you, David, who was growing up, a scar was your that was your what's the word I'm looking for? Your battle. That was your sign that you almost, you know, I got
badge of honor.
Badge of honor. That's the word right there. Some guy cuts you. I survived because I beat the guy up, but he cut me. Now you got some people are afraid of you because they said, man, he's been shot, he's been stabbed, he's still here. So it's one of those things, you know? Yeah. So as you go to that point in his life, then, you know, he gets to the Job Corps and he realizes that, hey, man, that was another side of this life. But he was getting in trouble in the Job Corps. They're about to kick him out of the Job Corps. If not for Doc Brodus, he gets kicked out of the Job Corps. Doc told him, said, man, George, he tells me this story. We talked about it a many days, and I'm waiting to see how. I'm waiting to see how. I haven't seen. I just been in parts, right? So they're shooting stuff somewhere different all the time. But I want to see how that was a segment that George and another friend of his went to the Job Corps together, right? Okay. So that was a segment where George was down there, had been in the gym. We was just starting the box, pretty much. You know, didn't know much about it, but he was a badass in the place. But one of his friends was up at the dormitory. Some guys was bothering his friend, you know. So George, he goes tell George. Here come George again, badass, coming back. These guys, oh man, George, here he come, that fool. They lock the door. George punches the hole through the door. Bam! Oh yeah, punches a hole. Should have broke his damn ass. Probably when his hand problem started when he hit that door from that point. But the fist goes straight through the door, right? Reaches out. They say, now, believe me, I know there's a bunch of Paul Bunyan stories out there. But they claim that when he punches the door, he grabs the door off the hinges. And these guys literally jump out of the window.
I would too if a guy just tore a door out.
That's what I mean. So and now the Job Corps people meet and say, oh, we got to kick him out. But Doc Brodus said, listen, I can work with this kid. You know, he's on my boxing team. He was green as all I do, but give him another chance to let him stay. So they let him stay, you know, and then, you know, the rest became history. He goes on to win the Olympics and stuff like that. But it's a thing where the inspirational part of it, and the movie is actually, from what I'm being told right now, is to be released in a lot of the churches. A lot of these churches have movie theaters now. I mean, I'm sure it's going to probably hit the screen at some time, I guess. But they plan to release it through because Sony is producing the movie. And Sony has what they call the Judeo-Christian type thing, a system where they release to all these churches, and you know, people go in the churches, they just go in and see the movie. That's how they plan to release it. But if it gets the right buzz, because you got some very good names in it. You got Forrest Whitaker is in it. Charles Dutton, the kid Michael Williams had been scheduled. That's the actor that it was in The Wire, or he was in that show with that Boardwalk Empire. Hell of an actor, but he died from an overdose. 1 week after just signing the movie, he has an overdose in New York, so he dies. So Michael Williams. So you got Forrest Whitaker, Rock, what's his name? Dutton, Charles Dutton, and quite a few some other names. I don't know everybody because nobody ever see. You know, it's the thing in the movies. You find out that whatever we're doing over here, somebody's doing over there, and you never see each other until, and people think you were together every day. It's amazing how they put those things together, you know.
Nowadays, especially, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't even see the actors. You know, they guys say, "Oh, he's in the movie. Oh, was he? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know." You know, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was the digital representation of him was in the movie. Yeah.
That's how they do it. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything is just about wrapped up by December, and they plan to release it March of 2020. It would have been out this year, really, had it not been for COVID. But so of course it got moved back 2 years. But so March of 2023, they plan to have it released, and it's got potential to be an inspirational story, and that's what they're reaching for.
Awesome, man.
It's going to be surprising that's of all the things we've ever done. I'm waiting to hear my name mentioned in the movie somewhere. You know, that's like crazy, right?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, you've got it. You've got to be. You're such an integral part of all of this, including his turnaround and his comeback. There's no way.
I'm waiting to have you, but Hollywood, they can do anything if they want to do.
You know, they don't want to pay. Okay, let's say they have your character in there though. Who do you want to play you?
You know, the kid I really would think that people be more believable. You're not a kid anymore, but the kid I was watching him on television this morning. Alfonso Rivera, I think his name. He played. They called him in. He was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The goofy, the cousin. What they call
Carlton?
Carlton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I could kind of see it.
I seen him because I could see him because there were times in our life where I had to be the go-between George and everything he was doing, especially when we were kids, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the guys want to beat me up. Then all of a sudden somebody said, "Man, that's Monk's brother. You don't want to do that." They said, "Who? That's Monk's brother?" Because George, I'm a little guy. They go like, "Hey, man, you hit him, you got a problem. You will not be walking these streets anymore." So when I seen Carter this morning, I said he'd be a good one. But I actually spoke to the guy. He called me he sent me an email. And he was, we were asking questions and stuff like that. He asked me different things. How do I do this? How I do that? I'm saying, it's what he said. Well, how did you react when you won the Olympics? And it's one of those things that I don't know how I actually won the Olympics because actually when he won the Olympics, David, I really didn't know what the Olympics was.
Yeah, you were pretty young still. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was. But as I found out later on, 5 years later, he's heavyweight champion of what? It's a whole different thing now. But, but I mean, I look at him, but I guess they're going to I think they're going to have like 3 stages, of us when being young. And I think the guy that's playing George is the guy who played in, was it 90210? Yeah, I don't know. He played on one of those movies. He played in a couple of TV, but I don't know. I can't remember his name. I only met him one time. And he's playing the younger George. And then they got a guy that's going to play the older George, and then
I'm glad they're not trying to digitally age it or do something weird like that.
No. Yeah. Just to a point. And then I think what they're going to do is use a lot of footage in between, with him winning the title.
Oh,
stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah.
Because they don't want to have to pay Joe Frazier family any money. It's one of those things.
All this could get expensive very quickly.
Right. Yeah. So they just saying a thing of, okay, George Foreman wins the title. You want to know who he beat history. Go Google it. Google it, but we're not paying. So it's one of those kind of things. But it's interesting to see that part of it. And I've started my book, as a matter of fact. The guy's writing my book. I've been on mine for about the last about 6 months, now 7 months. And the guy that's doing the guy by the name of Victor Woodford. As a matter of fact, he's in, I think he was in San Francisco, LA, but he moved to Arizona now. Okay. He's an author and a pretty good little writer. I'm writing more or less because I've spoken to the people over there. And I want to jump on it right quickly, but I want to see if you saw the Tyson thing on Hulu.
I heard the controversy. I didn't watch it because of all that.
But you know what, David? Let me tell you something. The controversy comes in not because Hulu they should have involved Mike Tyson. I agree with it on that. But I was around during that period. And everything they put in the movie was about as accurate from the people I know, what they told me, what I seen, and what the newspaper reported, right? And I think the reason Mike was so upset, others they didn't pay him to be a part of it, it showed that a 20-year-old kid can be stupid when he's given a lot of money.
Well, the thing is, I'm not sure I buy that because I've read Tyson's book, and he does not sugarcoat himself.
Well, that's what I mean. But
okay.
But it's one thing to see in a book, but then
it's another to see a portrayal of you on film doing these things. That's a good point. Yeah.
Because you look back and go like, I'm like, Mike, it's okay. How many kids, even today, how many kids, David, react to the fact that you get them all of a sudden, you look at the NBA and some of the things that these kids do when they get their money. They go out, they wreck their cars, they do this. You can't give a 20-year-old millions of dollars and expect them to act like the regular kid down the street anymore.
No, they're gonna buy it. They're gonna buy a tiger.
They're gonna buy.
That's what they're gonna go buy a tiger.
They're gonna buy something crazy. That's just the way you do it. Do you need 5 houses? Do you need 13 cars? You got 5 baby mamas. Tyson's thing was he just got loose and wild. And you look back and then you got children too. Remember that. And you're about to have grandchildren. It's like, damn, was I that stupid? Was I? Yes, Mike, you were. But it's no different. And probably had they had YouTube and CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and all that in the 70s, there's no telling what you would have seen George, Ali, and Frazier, them guys doing.
Oh,
I don't think they acted fool like that. Yeah. But I'm telling you, man, because we had a lot of them guys even back then that came out of prison. Well, Lyle came out of prison. Man, those guys did some crazy things back then. But, now, they're legends, of course, and people don't talk too much about that.
I'm just kind of sad Ali didn't have a Twitter. Now that I think about it, that would have been the most entertaining Twitter of all time.
Entertaining Twitter in the world. even with him dead, you see his stuff, you still laugh. He makes me laugh every time I look at this guy, man. Because when I spend time around him, it was even more funny than that because he was a clown, man. But he was a serious guy about himself and about people. Ali, Twitter would have made him 10 times as big as he was. You know what I mean? Because he loved people. But he was another guy that couldn't walk away from the twilight, from the limelight either. That's why after he beat George, he should have just quit.
Yeah,
when he wanted to
or at the least Frazier the third time. Yeah,
the other third time he should have just quit because by the time when he fought, George,
but your brother, everyone was saying the same thing about your brother though. That's the weird thing. When he came back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to give people the chance to see if they can, for sure.
I think that had George not had that 10-year break in his life, he wouldn't have boxed anymore. He would have quit. He would have quit probably around 1980, 81 anyway. He would have quit. I don't see him coming. His problem was when he retired, he was 36, he was 27 when he retired. And he spent the next 10 years just eating Burger King, McDonald's, and going to church. But I think that by the time he got to be 36, he needed another challenge. Yeah, he wanted to make money. Don't get me wrong. It was about money. But we had the youth center by that time. We were raising money, using to raise money. We were doing okay. He was living a good life. He still had his, he had his rent. George hadn't gone to no bankrupt. George had money in the bank. He was making a little money doing this and doing that. But I think at the time, he wanted another challenge in his life.
So that this is exactly why we need a book from you. Like we've been talking 3 hours and you've already given me like 5 stories that I had no idea about and that I've never heard before. So let's close it up with when can we expect your book to come out then?
I'm hoping to have it finished by February and go into rewrite March. So when the movie comes out, we'll have everything ready to come out by the time the movie comes out.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be really cool.
Yeah,
and we're gonna guys, we're gonna try to do this like once a month or once every few months with these long form ones. So let us know. We don't expect you to listen to all this in one go, but let us know what you think if you prefer this kind of thing, because I don't know, I like this better. This was a lot of fun. for me.
I love it. I like talking with you because you let me say all the crazy stuff I want to say.
I'm not going to argue with you, man. Monk will beat me up. All right, I'm going to...
It's been fun. It's always fun. I enjoyed it. I missed it, and like I said, with COVID, so many things got on,
No, I legitimately miss talking to you.
I missed it. God, people always ask me, when you guys come to base, I was looking at, a guy told me, he said, I was looking at your thing last week, but I think you talked about that before. I said, who was it? He said, you talking about Tommy Hearns? I said, yeah, that was like a year and a half ago, guy. But that people turn, because it's funny when I see the numbers go up, like, oh, okay, that means another 1,000 people watched it, but that's good. But now
people are still watching it. It's a surprising thing. It's been like a year, and then every once in a while, I'll see a video recommended to me from that channel, and I'm like, it has 15,000 now. What the hell?
Yeah. So that's fine. We'll do it. We'll look at doing it once a month. If something special comes up, we can always jump in and grab that as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, we're back.